Nyan Nyan, you've really changed. You used to love me so much. Jiu Nyan curled her lips in disdain and said, who doesn't change, Zhang Siqing, after how you treated me back then. If I still loved you now, I'd be nothing but a fool. Zhang Siqing was instantly left speechless by her words. His tense face filled with anger and hostility. I don't believe it. If you truly didn't love me, you wouldn't have returned to the country with our child. You wouldn't have ruined my wedding with Shen Shujing or my blind date with He Wenqing if you didn't still care. He grabbed Jiu Nyan's wrist tightly. Nyan Nyan, if you hate me and want revenge, why not remarry me and torment me personally for your vengeance? Chapter 149. I won't give you this chance. Wishful thinking. Jiu Union mercilessly shook him off. Do you even want to have a proper conversation? If you're not serious, I don't have time to waste with you. With that, Jiu Union reached to open the car door and leave, but after pulling the handle, she realized he had locked the doors. Her expression grew even colder as she turned to glare at Zhang Siqing. If she weren't no match for him and confined in the car, Jiu Union would have really liked to directly curse his ancestors to the 18th generation. Open the door for me. Her face was flushed with anger, and her eyes shone startlingly bright from the fury, seeing her like this. Zhang Siqing felt his own irritation grow even more intense. Suppressing his anger, he spoke slowly and deliberately. Didn't you say you wanted to talk? If you leave, how can we talk? Jiu Union took a deep breath, growing even angrier. Zhang Siqing, don't you dare act shamelessly with me. You're the CEO of Yingfan, the esteemed fourth young master of the Zhang family. Have some dignity, will you? Zhang Siqing's deep eyes fixed on her, suddenly curling into a cold, intrigued smile. Jiu Union, if you don't want to talk properly, then we can discuss the issue of the child's custody. Jiu Union abruptly raised her head, her gaze icy as she stared at him. Zhang Siqing's low, hoarse voice sounded above her. I am the child's biological father. If I want to, I can completely obtain Xiaoqin's custody. But Union, you know, I don't want to be that ruthless to you. Jiu Union was so furious that her brows twitched violently, and her delicate face nearly twisted with anger. Without another word, she raised her hand and swung at him. Zhang Siqing, if you think you can have Xiaoqian, you're dreaming. I won't give you custody of Xiaoqian. Zhang Siqing neither fought back nor dodged, simply letting her hit him. When she finished, he grabbed her hand and asked, had enough? He curled his lips slightly and suddenly leaned in, his gaze locking onto hers, dangerous yet elegant emotions hidden within. If not, you can keep hitting me. But, Nyan Nyan, you should know that even though you're now the CEO of Zhengshan, in Huaju, you're just a rising star in the business world. If I want to, even in a legal battle, you won't win. The man's towering figure stood before her like an immovable mountain, firmly trapping her inside the Aston Martin. Her protests and struggles seemed as insignificant as a kitten extending its claws, neither painful nor bothersome. However, if you want to protect Xiaoqian, there's another way. Remarry me. His voice was hoarse, yet rich and deep like a cello, carrying a tone that was both threatening and as casual as an ordinary suggestion. Jiu Yunyan's eyes blazed with fury like a raging fire. She raised her hand again to strike Zhang Siqing's face, shouting, Zhang Siqing, you're despicable. Zhang Siqing tightly gripped her wrist, pulling her closer as a meaningful sneer curled at the corner of his lips. Say it again. I dare you, Zhang Siqing. Every time I start to see you in a slightly better light, you always manage to make me despise you even more. Jiu Yunyan's voice dripped with deep disgust and rejection, her face flushed with anger. I will never remarry you, and I won't give you the child either. Keep dreaming. I may have nothing left, but I'm not afraid to fight to the death. Zhang Siqing, I'm not the same Jiu Union from 5 years ago. If you want to play hardball, go ahead and try me. As soon as Jiu Union finished speaking, Zhang Siqing suddenly yanked her forcefully into his embrace. His large hand clamped around her slender waist as he let out a derisive chuckle, his deep voice laced with pointed dissatisfaction. Fight me to the death. He looked down at Jiu Union for a moment, his thumb lightly stroking her chin twice. I won't give you that opportunity. His voice carried a chilling undertone, and the hand resting on her chin grew dangerously tense, as if it could snap her fragile neck at any moment. Yet she ignored his hand, her pale fingertip tapping lightly on his Adam's apple. Watching the prominent bulge slide up and down swiftly, she curled her lips into a seductive smile, her earlier anger completely gone. What, can't bear to, Chapter 150, I can't bear to. Without giving the man a chance to respond, she suddenly leaned in and kissed his lips. The soft warmth of her lips, brushed against his, sent a tingling sensation through him. A flicker of surprise flashed in Jean Siching's eyes. Ji Yunyan's arms slowly wound around him like vines, her initiative causing Jean Siching's expression to change almost instantly. The woman in his arms seemed like a boneless enchantress, every inch of her perfectly aligned with his preferences, stirring his nerves. Jean Siching unceremoniously pressed his hand against the back of her head, deepening the kiss. A turbulent undercurrent seemed to swirl in his eyes as the familiar, sweet taste on his lips instantly snapped the thread of reason in his mind. He pinned her fiercely against the leather seat, his lips ruthlessly claiming hers in a kiss that was both savage and full of desire, cradling her delicate, palm-sized face. His voice was hoarse and domineering. Yes, I can't bear to let you go. The previously cold and tense atmosphere inside the car quickly heated up. Suddenly, amid the sounds of their fervor, the crisp click of the car door unlocking broke the silence. Ji Yunyan suddenly pushed the man off her, striking his abdomen hard with her elbow. Her crimson lips curled into a defiant smirk as she let out a cold laugh. Though it was unclear which of his words she was responding to, "You don't get to decide," she swiftly straightened her disheveled clothes, then opened the car door and stepped out in one fluid motion. Jean Siching's face darkened instantly, and he instinctively reached to open the door and chase after her, but then he suddenly froze. He didn't know when that cunning woman had untied and pulled out his belt, which was now embarrassingly discarded at his feet. Jean Siching let out a cold laugh. Looking out the car window again, he saw Ji Yunyan flagging down a taxi and speeding away. Divorce.I, who had been basking in the sun on the street for quite a while, looked up in astonishment at Ji Yunyan's rapidly retreating figure, then glanced at the sports car parked beside him. He opened the car door and got into the driver's seat. "Chief," before he could finish speaking, he suddenly noticed the appearance of Jean Siching in the back row, and the words he hadn't said were instantly scared back into his throat. The man sat stiffly in the back seat, casually fastening his belt, his aura icy and oppressive. Zhong Shuai's scalp instantly went numb. Damn it. What exactly did Ji Yunyan just do? With the president now looking so unsatisfied, Ji Yunyan has left him with a human-shaped weapon that could explode at any moment. He swallowed hard, not daring to speak. Jean Siching lifted his eyelids, his eyes dark and unreadable. His voice was calm but carried an intense pressure. "Go after her. Chase." "Chase what?" Zhong Shuai didn't react at first, but after meeting Jean Siching's gaze through the rearview mirror, he shuddered violently and instantly understood his meaning. "Got it." The Aston Martin let out a dull roar and swiftly sped off. Ji Yunyan left in such a hurry that she didn't have time to take her own car. She randomly hailed a taxi and threw the driver 5,000 yuan, saying, "Lose that SUV behind us right now, then take me to a crowded place and let me out. I'll give you another 10,000 when we get there." The driver, who had been about to refuse, immediately changed his mind. He flashed a bright smile and said, "Buckle up." The driver thought earning 15,000 was quite a breeze. Just quickly take her away, drop her off at a busy spot nearby, then drive around aimlessly for a while. Piece of cake. Little did he expect that within less than 5 minutes of driving, the Aston Martin behind him would catch up and recklessly ram into his rear. Unlike those modified luxury cars, his taxi couldn't withstand a collision, since Ji Yunyan was still in the car. The impact wasn't severe, but the driver was so frightened that he immediately stopped and hastily returned every last bit of the still warm 5,000 yuan to her. "You'd better get out. I don't have the life to earn this money, nor the life to spend it." Ji Yunyan didn't accept it, his eyes flickering slightly. "No need." Chapter 151 Unless I die. She took out another 10,000 yuan and placed it in the driver's hand. "This is compensation for your distress. You have a dashcam in your car, right? Call the police now to arrest them. The car behind intentionally rear-ended us. They're fully responsible. You don't need to do anything else, just stall them for me. They'll have to pay compensation later." The driver thought for a moment and felt that this business might not be entirely impossible to do. At that moment, the car door was knocked. Outside, Zhong Shuai's expression was very respectful. "Mad, Miss Ji Yu. Our CEO is still waiting for you in the car." Ji Union gave the driver a look, and he immediately understood, quickly opening the car door and grabbing Zhong Shuai. What's wrong with you? Such a wide road, and you just crashed straight into my car like that. Do you realize this is attempted murder? Look, the trunk is dented. I've already called the police, and this isn't over today. Just because you have money, does that make you special? Does having money mean you can bully people? He spoke these words extremely quickly, as if afraid that if Zhong Shuai interrupted him, he would lose his courage. He touched the 15,000 yuan in his pocket, gritted his teeth, and held on to Zhong Shuai tightly. I don't care who you are, no one leaves until the police arrive. Zhong Shuai frowned. How much? I'll compensate you for your losses. The driver pursed his lips, nervously gripping him even tighter. Can money really make up for this? I was terrified. And what about the passenger in my car? If something had happened to either of us, that would be 2 lives lost. Aston Martins aren't commonly seen on the road, especially ones that deliberately crash into taxis. Before long, a crowd had gathered around, not only pointing fingers but also pulling out their phones to start recording videos. Seeing the growing crowd, the taxi driver grew bolder. Listen, with so many people watching, the police will be here soon. Even you rich folks can't bully people like this. I'm telling you, don't think you can buy me off with just a little money. Ji Union sat in the car, unable to resist curling her lips into a faint smile. Since he insisted on pestering her and shamelessly tried to snatch her treasure, she'd simply send him straight to fame. Though this little incident might not cause him any major trouble, it would at least annoy him enough to give her some satisfaction. She yanked the car door open, planning to make her exit right then and there. Little did she expect that she had barely taken 2 steps when someone grabbed her wrist firmly. Ji Union turned her head and met Zhong Siqing's dark, somber face. He looked into her eyes and suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Nyan Nyan, had enough fun? Ji Union sneered coldly. Fun? In President Zhong's eyes, 2 lives, mine and the driver's, are just a game. Taking my child away on a whim is nothing to you. Truly worthy of the 4th young master Zhong. I've seen it all today. Let go. Zhong Siqing's deep voice resonated as his gaze grew more profound. Nyan Nyan, if you hadn't run, I wouldn't have had Zhong Shuai resort to such methods to stop you. Ji Union was so angry that she laughed instead. Zhong Siqing, right now, there's truly no one who disgusts and repels me more than you. What will it take for you to stay away from me? Impossible. Zhong Siqing's gaze turned slightly cold, his face wearing a half-smile. Unless I die, you can kill me. Ji Union was furious, her eyes sharp. Do you think I wouldn't dare? Zhong Siqing curled his lips, exposing his vital point, and lifted Ji Union's hand to press against it. I never thought you wouldn't dare. Nyan Nyan, you can kill me right now. But if I die, you'll have to accompany me in death, sharing the same quilt in life and the same grave in death. Nyan Nyan, I will never let you leave. Ji Union slapped his hand away with a sharp sound. Zhong Siqing's dark eyes glimmered with a faint smile. What? Can't bear to let go. Nyan Nyan. Ji Union lifted her chin haughtily, giving him a disdainful glance. Don't flatter yourself. Death would be too easy for you. I won't let you off so lightly. Besides, why should I sacrifice my entire life for you? Ji Union had originally intended for the driver to stall Zhong Shuai and Zhong Siqing. But the driver was quickly swayed by Zhong Shuai's money after just a few words. Chapter 152. My dad has a lot. He walked up to Ji Union with an apologetic look and handed the 15,000 back to her. I'm sorry, miss, but I can't help you stall them anymore. I didn't want to sell the car, but they offered too much. He usually drives a taxi, earning just a few thousand to 10,000 yuan a month. And his beat-up Xiali isn't worth much either. As a result, Zhong Shuai spent hundreds of thousands in one go to buy that junk car of his. How could he not be tempted? After all, he still needed to save up for his child's education. I just felt a bit sorry for Ji Union. So I made a special trip to return the money to her. Zhong Siqing heard his words and smiled meaningfully. Hold me back, Ji Union. Ji Union sat stiffly in his car as they arrived at Xiao Chen's kindergarten. Xiao Chen's eyes immediately showed wariness when he saw the Aston Martin. Upon getting in the car and seeing Zhong Siqing and Ji Union sitting in the back seat, her alertness instantly heightened. He quickly ran to Ji Union's side and hugged her leg. Ji Union had told him over the past 2 days that Zhong Siqing knew about his identity, so he wasn't surprised. However, his little bun-like face, so similar to Zhang Xiqing's, showed an unhappy expression as he asked, "Mommy, why are you with this person?" Zhang Xiqing frowned immediately upon hearing his words. "Your mommy should have told you that I am your father. Moreover, you've seen me before when we did the paternity test." Xiao Chen snorted. "So what if I've seen you? Did you ask for my permission to be my dad?" Zhang Xiqing watched as the boy clung to Jiyu Yunyan's leg, feeling increasingly displeased no matter how he looked at it. The first time he saw Xiao Chen, his heart softened not because he wanted a child, but because this child might have been born between him and Jiyu Yunyan, hence his love for the child by association. But now that it's settled, seeing him and Jiyu Yunyan so intimate makes him feel like an outsider, excluded by the two of them, which leaves him feeling stifled and unable to resist a twinge of jealousy. "I am your biological father. That's an objective fact decided before you were even born, and it doesn't require your approval." Xiao Chen rolled his eyes. Though his voice was childish, his words were clear and articulate. "Of course not. There are so many people chasing after my mommy. If everyone could just say they want to be my daddy and become my daddy, like you, then the number of daddies I have now could probably circle the earth twice." Zhang Xiqing's face darkened. Zhang Xiqing's voice suddenly turned cold and harsh. "Sharp-tongued little thing. Is this how your mother has been teaching you all these years? Seems like you need a tutor to properly learn some manners." Jiyu Yunyan could no longer contain her anger upon hearing his words. She turned to glare at Zhang Xiqing and sneered, "How I teach my child is none of your business. If you find him so disagreeable, why are you fighting me for custody?" Zhang Xiqing replied indifferently, "He's my son. Of course I have every right and obligation to educate him." Little Chen raised his tiny face defiantly and glared fiercely at Zhang Xiqing. "I don't need you at all. I've got plenty of daddies. You're not special. They're all happy to teach me. I don't want some stranger like you." Zhang Xiqing was instantly infuriated by him. What did he mean by saying his dad has many? Earlier, he even claimed that the number of people pursuing Jiyu Yunyan could circle the earth twice. Although he knew it was just to deliberately provoke him, he couldn't help feeling upset and agitated inside. He grabbed Xiao Chen and gave him 2 smacks on his little bottom. "Since your mommy didn't teach you, I'll teach you some manners today." He didn't use any force at all, yet Xiao Chen suddenly burst into loud wails. "Mommy, he hits children. I don't want a dad like this. I want to go find big dad, third dad, fourth dad, and sixth dad." Jiyu Yunyan was instantly furious. She raised her arm and slapped Zhang Xiqing's shoulder several times. "Zhang Xiqing, have you lost your mind? Who said you could hit my son?" Zhong Shuai, sitting in the driver's seat, listened to the sounds of arguing and the child crying in the back. Chapter 153, Mommy, let's go home. He had never imagined that one day, such a scene would unfold with their family's domineering, cold-blooded, and iron-willed CEO. The car drove all the way to the previously reserved restaurant, with Jiyu Yunyan pulling Xiao Chen out of the car, his face icy. Xiao Chen had just finished crying. His eyes still watery and slightly red, his chubby little face was tightly drawn, lips pressed together, clearly unhappy. Standing behind the two of them, Zhang Xiqing's face was equally expressionless, dressed in a sleek black suit that exuded an air of restraint and nobility. The moment the trio appeared, they captured everyone's attention. Even without any introduction, no one doubted the authenticity of their familial bond, simply because the resemblance was uncanny. To claim they weren't family would be to invite accusations of being blind. The three of them entered the restaurant completely oblivious to the gazes of others. Zhang Xiqing pushed the menu in front of her and said, "What would you like to eat? Order first." Although Jiyu Yunyan was still angry, she remained rational. Even though she had been arguing with him the whole time, she hadn't stopped trying to come up with solutions during this period. After all, as Xiao Chen's biological father, she couldn't completely refuse Zhang Xiqing's attempts to get close to the child. Moreover, there are 2 more at home. If he finds out about all of them, she will lose all initiative. She couldn't allow the 3 babies she had risked her life for to be taken away by him. Jiyu Yun swiftly ordered food for herself and Xiao Chen, then pushed the menu back. Suddenly, she spoke, her voice cold. "Zhang Xiqing, you wanted to have a meal, and I brought Xiao Chen here. Since you and your son don't get along, I don't think there's any need for us to meet again in the future. There's no way I'll remarry you. Not even if you use Xiao Chen to threaten me." Zhang Xiqing abruptly looked up, his eyes instantly clouded with gloom. What do you mean by that? Ji Union lowered her gaze, rinsing the bowls and chopsticks for herself and Xiao Chen before speaking slowly. It's nothing much, I just wanted to make my stance clear, there's no possibility for us anymore. If you try to force me, it will only make me dislike you even more. Don't blame me then for using Zhenxin's advantages to create trouble for you. After hearing this, Zhang Xiqing suddenly let out a light scoff, his voice laced with suppressed anger. Ji Union acted as if she didn't notice. The reason I returned to China is because I'm from Huaju, and the company's new strategic plan happens to focus on Huaju. It has nothing to do with you. You previously accused me of ruining your wedding with Shen Shujing and sabotaging your blind date with He Wenqing because I loved you, which is completely absurd. If there's any feeling I still have for you, it's nothing but hatred. A sharp glint flashed in Zhang Xiqing's eyes, the surrounding air seeming to freeze into ice from the chill emanating from him. Then hate me even more. You're my wife, whether it's you or the child, I won't let go of either. Ji Union's expression instantly cooled. Frowning, she realized further discussion was impossible. Gritting her teeth, she said, "We divorced 5 years ago." Zhang Xiqing lifted his eyelids, gazing at her indifferently with dark, inscrutable eyes. So what? Ji Union, her chest heaved violently with anger, and she no longer wanted to speak to him. Xiao Chen patted Ji Union's arm beside her. "Mommy, don't be angry." After speaking, he looked up unhappily at Zhang Xiqing. "Since you're my dad, why do you always make mommy angry? If you like children so much, you can go find someone else to have them with. If you can't treat mommy well, then stop clinging to her. If you don't cherish her, there are plenty of people lining up to cherish my mommy." Zhang Xiqing, a surge of anger instantly rose, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Xiao Chen, meeting his gaze, seemed frightened and bit his lip, whimpering as he buried himself in Ji Union's arms. "Mommy, let's go home. I don't want to eat with him. I didn't say anything wrong. Why did he look at me with such scary eyes?" Zhang Xiqing's temples throbbed a few times, and the scene before him felt strangely familiar. It suddenly occurred to him that when he first met Xiaoxing, she had used the same trick on him. The curve at the corner of Zhang Xiqing's lips grew wider, though he was smiling. It sent chills down one's spine. "Nian Nian, Xiaoxing is also my child, isn't she?" Chapter 154, Zhang Xiqing. "Don't push your luck." Ji Union raised her eyes to look at him without showing any emotion, letting out a cold laugh. "How do you want me to answer? It seems no matter what I say, you wouldn't believe me anyway, would you?" Zhang Xiqing stared straight at her, his deep eyes filled with an intense darkness. "No, I'll believe whatever you say. Is it her?" Ji Union picked up the red wine glass, gently swirling it as she looked at him through the glass, replying indifferently, "No." Zhang Xiqing's pupils constricted sharply, his hand hanging by his side instinctively clenched with force, the blue veins on the back of his hand bulging. "Nian Nian, don't lie to me." Ji Union lowered her head and let out a mocking laugh. When she looked up again, her eyes were icy cold. "See, I told you wouldn't believe me no matter what I say. So why bother asking? As long as you ask, this is the only answer I can give you. Xiaoxing is the child I had after remarrying abroad these past 5 years." A profound, inscrutable depth flashed swiftly through Zhang Xiqing's eyes as he replied calmly, "Then how do you explain that Xiao Chen and Xiaoxing are the same age?" Xiao Chen suddenly chimed in from the side, his childish voice unusually earnest and convincing. "Mommy gave birth to me first, but she never registered my household status. It was only after my sister was born that Daddy registered me under the household as twins with her." He blinked his eyes, those strikingly similar to Zhang Xiqing's were clear and showed no trace of lying. Noticing Zhang Xiqing staring straight at him, Xiao Chen remained unruffled. After all, he wasn't lying, it was indeed his dad, his elder father, who registered their household in the year he was born. Because Mommy was worried about being discovered, she genuinely didn't register the 3 of them. It wasn't until a year later that his elder father registered him and his siblings. Although Zhang Xiqing was suspicious in his heart, he didn't ask anything further. Because Xiaoxing indeed appeared much younger than Xiao Chen, and they didn't look very similar, she had completely inherited her mother Ji Union's appearance. The 3 of them didn't speak much during the meal. Zhang Xiqing had little appetite and couldn't help but serve her a bowl of seafood soup, which she used to love the most. Jiu Union just gave it a faint glance and didn't take it. Xiao Chen happily chimed in upon seeing this. Mommy doesn't drink seafood soup, Zhang Xiqing froze, frowning. What did you say? Xiao Chen looked at him challengingly, pursing his little lips and smiling like a fox. Didn't you say you like mommy? How come you don't even know that mommy occasionally gets allergies from eating seafood? Zhang Xiqing's expression changed abruptly. He truly hadn't known. When they were still married, she often cooked, preparing meals every morning and evening, waiting for him to come home. She even made lunch and had the driver deliver it to his office. He remembered that back then, she would simmer a pot of seafood soup like this every day, so she was actually allergic to seafood. Jiu Union glanced at Zhang Xiqing's disheveled expression, a mocking sneer curling at the corners of her lips. This was the man she had loved so deeply back then. The three of them finished their meal in silence, with no one speaking again. As the sun set in the west, the lights outside gradually turned on. Jiu Union held Xiao Chen's hand and walked out of the restaurant. With her back to the light, her face was hidden in the darkness, making her expression unclear. Zhang Xiqing's gaze lingered on her, his heart feeling somewhat stifled. The oppressive aura of violence and danger dissolved into the night. His voice was slightly hoarse as he said, "I'll take you back." Jiu Union frowned. "I agreed when you said you wanted to have dinner with Xiao Chen. Zhang Xiqing, don't push your luck." Zhang Xiqing curled his lips slightly and spoke calmly. "As Xiao Chen's father, I have a responsibility to ensure his safety." Jiu Union rolled her eyes, knowing full well these were just excuses, but there was no way she was going to let him into her home. Jiu Union raised her phone, showing a call screen. "No need to trouble President Zhang. I do have a driver." As soon as she finished speaking, a car pulled up nearby, its headlights flashing twice. The driver stepped out. "President, young master." Xiao Chen happily pulled open the passenger seat door and climbed into his special child seat, his laughter crisp and clear. "Thank you for your hard work, Grandpa Li." Chapter 155. "I'll marry whoever I like." Jiu Union turned her head and smiled at Zhang Xiqing without saying a word before getting into the car. The car door slammed shut with a thud, and the vehicle slipped into the traffic like a nimble fish, quickly disappearing from sight. A deep, magnetic chuckle escaped Zhang Xiqing's chest. There's plenty of time ahead. When Zhang Xiqing returned home, he saw Zhao Yumai sitting on the living room sofa as if waiting for him, his expression unchanged. He casually took off his suit jacket and handed it to the servant standing nearby. "Why are you sitting here?" Zhao Yumei's gaze fell on him, and she snorted. "You're back earlier than I expected. I thought you'd be spending the night out." Zhang Xiqing frowned, unwilling to waste time listening to her tantrum. "Mom, what do you want to say?" Zhao Yumei slammed a contract onto the table with a loud smack. "I saw the stock gift agreement you drafted. You want to give our Zhang family's assets to that little bitch Jiu Union." "No, I won't allow it." Zhang Xiqing's face darkened as he said coldly, "Mom, I've told you not to call her that. Nian Nian is the woman I love, my wife." Zhao Yumei took a deep breath. "What do you mean your wife? The two of you divorced long ago. If your grandfather knew you were giving the Zhang family's possessions to an outsider, he'd probably be so angry he'd climb out of his coffin." Zhang Xiqing's tone brooked no argument. "I will remarry her. She is the fourth young madam of the Zhang family, not an outsider." Hearing this, Zhao Yumei exploded with anger. "I won't allow it. Xiqing, let me tell you, you can marry anyone you want, except Jiu Union. I won't permit the two of you to remarry, and I won't agree to let her step through the Zhang family's gates again." Zhang Xiqing loosened his tie, his gaze devoid of emotion as he looked at Zhao Yumei. "Mom, you couldn't stop me 5 years ago, and you certainly can't now." Zhao Yumei was so angry she nearly jumped up, her voice turning shrill. "No, I don't like her. I'm your mother. You can't treat me like this." Zhang Xiqing lowered his head and chuckled softly, his eyes icy cold. "You don't have to like her. I'm the one marrying her. As long as I like her, that's enough." Zhao Yumei took several deep breaths before calming down. "You like her, but do you like her enough to have her bear your child?" Zhang Xiqing lifted his gaze and glanced at his mother. Considering her temperament, he chose not to reveal the truth. "Just wait to hold your grandson." Zhao Yumei was so infuriated by his words that she nearly fainted. "I've waited 5 years. Where's my grandson?" "Xiqing, are you trying to kill me with anger?" Zhang Xiqing met Zhao Yumei's gaze directly, his voice calm yet icy. Why have you always been prejudiced against Nian Nian? Zhao Yumai rolled her eyes, her expression full of arrogance. You're the fourth young master of the Zhon family, the most distinguished man in all of Huaju. She's just an orphan. How could she ever be worthy of you? Zhon Xiqing poured himself a glass of water, drank it slowly, and then said deliberately, worthy or not, that's for me to decide. Zhao Yumai, seeing him so stubborn, decided to go all out. She lifted her chin defiantly and spoke without a care. Do you think just anyone can become the daughter-in-law of our Zhon family? Look at your sisters-in-law, what kind of families do they come from? And then look at her. 5 years ago, I couldn't even hold my head up when I went out. No, you can't marry her again. If you ignore my wishes and get a marriage certificate with her, I'll hang myself right at your doorstep. Zhon Siken, he suddenly laughed. His voice deep and magnetic but devoid of any warmth, his entire aura icy and menacing. Are you threatening me? Mom, if you want a grandchild, I'll marry Nian Nian, and you'll have one right away, but if you refuse, then you'll never see my child in this lifetime. Zhao Yumai was stunned by his overwhelming presence and took a moment to recover before shouting indignantly. What do you mean by that? You're actually using a child to threaten me, Zhon Siken. Now that you've taken over the company, you think you're untouchable, don't you? You've grown wings and don't even care about your own mother anymore. Is that it? Do you think you can threaten me? I have 4 sons. If you won't give birth, plenty of others will. I still hold 3% of the company's shares. If you refuse, I'll give them to your eldest brother. Chapter 156. What have you been up to lately? Zhon Xiqing carelessly set down the water glass. The collision between the glass and the countertop produced a crisp clink. The corner of Zhon Xiqing's lips curled up, his voice growing even colder. Suit yourself. He really wasn't in the mood today to watch Zhao Yumai perform or listen to her argue. After dropping that remark, he didn't even look back and went straight upstairs. Zhao Yumai stood rooted to the spot, staring at his retreating figure in astonishment, her face wearing an expression of disbelief. She turned to a servant nearby and demanded, what does he mean by that? Is he saying he doesn't even want the shares anymore? Does he think Yingfan is his now, to disregard an 8% stake just like that? GU Union, how impressive. I underestimated her. The servant didn't dare say much, only whispering in consolation, Madam, please don't be angry. Even if it's the young mistress, she's still beneath you. You're the mother-in-law. In this household, she can never surpass you. Zhao Yumai naturally wouldn't listen to her words. What do you mean she can't surpass me? Look, those two haven't even remarried yet, and she's already scheming to make Xiqing divorce me. If she steps into this house again, what good will come of it? No way, that little vixen is so cunning, I can't let her succeed. Zhao Yumai picked up her phone and dialed a private investigator. I'll give you 5 million to keep a close eye on GU Union, the CEO of Junction Investment. Dig up any dirt or leverage on her. If you succeed, I'll give you another 5 million. The other party agreed readily, and only then did Zhao Yumai feel slightly relieved. GU Union had no idea she had once again caught Zhao Yumei's attention. On her way home, her car was abruptly stopped. A man in a low-key black tracksuit with a baby face pulled open the car door and got in. As soon as he entered, he saw GU Union sitting in the back seat and immediately reached out to vigorously ruffle her hair. GU Union instantly showed a look of disgust and swatted his hand away. Lin Qingxing, don't you dare mess up my hair. Lin Qingxing snorted and flicked her forehead with his finger. Call me 4th senior brother. You little brat. Lin Qingxing had entered the sect at a very young age, so although he was the same age as GU Union, he was ranked 4th, the 5th senior sister. The 7th senior sister and the 6th senior brother were all older than him. In daily life, they treated him and GU Union as the youngest and took care of them accordingly, so the only one he could bully was GU Union, who was ranked the lowest. GU Union unceremoniously flicked his hand back. Call my ass. Where have you been lately? You disappeared without a word. Even Master couldn't find you without divination. If I were Master, I'd expel a troublemaker like you from the sect. Lin Qingxing scoffed, his baby face wearing a smirk. Master has even put up with you. Do you really think he'd expel me from the sect? GU Union retorted indignantly. What's wrong with me? Xiao Chen, sitting in the passenger seat, eagerly unbuckled his seatbelt and actually climbed over from the front. 4th Dad. Lin Qingxing didn't answer her. Instead, he grabbed Xiao Chen by the collar and pulled the restless boy over. "You've gotten heavier again. You little rascal, sit properly in the car. What are you climbing around for? I told you to call me Godfather, but you just can't break the habit. Fourth dad, sounds like dead dad, it's bad luck, GU Union." She rolled her eyes. "Enough already, you and your superstitions. Are you leaving again after this trip?" He hugged Xiao Chen in his arms, pinching the chubby little face. "Stay with my godson for a couple more days before you leave. Where are Xiaotian and Xiaoxing?" Xiao Chen, brother, and Xiaoxing are both at home. The car drove smoothly along the way when suddenly, Lin Qingxing's expression changed. "Someone's following us." GU Union frowned and looked through the rearview mirror. Soon, she also spotted the black van that had been steadily tailing them. Lin Qingxing narrowed his eyes slightly. He was certain that his whereabouts were well protected, and no one would be able to track him to GU Union's place. "Have you offended anyone recently?" GU Union shook her head, her expression somewhat complicated. "No, but if they're coming for me, I can probably guess their motive." After a brief thought, Lin Qingxing understood what she meant. Zhon Xiqing, Chapter 157, "You should stop making a fuss." GU Union nodded and then shook her head. "It might not be him. I think it's more likely his mother." Xiao Chen's face darkened, his chubby cheeks scrunching up as he tugged at Lin Qingxing's sleeve, pouting. "I don't like them. They're so annoying." "Fourth uncle, I have a glorious and challenging mission for you now." Lin Qingxing raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement flashing in his eyes. "Oh, what mission?" Xiao Chen said without hesitation. "Hack that, whatever company called War Department or something." Lin Qingxing couldn't help but laugh. "That's ruthless. He's your biological father. Do you know how much money his company would lose per minute if it got hacked?" Xiao Chen gritted his teeth. "Biological father or not, anyone who hurts mommy is the enemy. Then transfer all his money out and donate it anonymously to the Red Cross. That'll keep him and his mother too busy to keep harassing us." Lin Qingxing was nearly doubled over with laughter as he pinched Xiao Chen's nose. "All right. Since our Xiao Chen is so angry, your godfather will definitely complete this mission flawlessly." GU Union refused without hesitation. "Don't indulge him. Hacking what company?" "Zhon Xiqing employs so many programmers who aren't just for show. If the IP gets leaked, they'll immediately suspect me. It's better if I openly snipe a few of his projects instead." Lin Qingxing snorted. "Underestimate me. Leak my IP. You think your fourth senior brother is just for show? I'm in the top 10 of the hacker rankings. No one online can catch me. Even getting into the security bureau would be a piece of cake." GU Union rolled her eyes. "Don't you dare corrupt my son." The person tailing them, though hired by Zhao Yumai as a private investigator, was no match for Lin Qingxing. After Lin Qingxing took over the wheel, they quickly shook off their pursuer. Although he didn't follow to the end, he still managed to take a photo of Lin Qingxing getting into the car. Zhao Yumai looked at the photo and immediately let out a cold laugh. She had always known that GU Union was no saint, keeping her son entangled while bringing other strange men home. This time, she had finally caught her red-handed. The next day, she excitedly went to Zhon Xiqing's company to find him. At that time, Zhon Xiqing was in a meeting, so she went straight to the CEO's office and threw the photos in front of him. "This is the woman you like. She just had dinner with you and parted ways, only to bring another man home right after." The photos all showed the same man, with a baby face. He appeared younger than GU Union, due to the car's anti-peeping film. No intimate moments were captured, but just the fact that GU Union took him home was enough to spark endless speculation. Zhon Xiqing's face darkened instantly, his expression turning grim. "Mom, did you have someone investigate her? Do you think I could just stand by when you insist on marrying her?" Zhao Yumai snorted coldly. "Now you know what kind of person she is. Don't be stubborn anymore. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to introduce you to a suitable young lady from a well-matched family." Zhao Yumai was overjoyed, as if she had just won a great battle. There was no way she would stand by and watch GU Union ruin her son. She looks so much like that person. How could she possibly allow her to marry her son and remain a constant eyesore? Even at all costs, she would separate her from her son. "I've told you I don't need you introducing those messy women to me anymore." Zhon Xiqing threw all the printed photos straight into the trash bin. "I'll have Zhong Shuai take you back." Zhao Yuemei's face flushed with anger. She simply couldn't understand why, with such irrefutable evidence, He remained so stubbornly deluded. What's with the sending? Every time I come to your office, you have someone send me home. Jean Sicheng. Do you really not want the shares in my hands anymore? You should know that if I really give the shares to your elder brother, his stake in the company will completely surpass yours. Are you willing to lose the company over a woman? Just 3% of the shares isn't enough to threaten me. And the shares Dad left you can't be casually transferred or sold, Jean Sicheng said, giving her a cool glance. Stop making a fuss. Chapter 158. Is there nothing between you and him? Zhao Yuemei's expression darkened. She didn't understand any of this and was only using such tactics to try to intimidate him. Jean Sicheng stood up, straightened the wrinkles on his clothes, and then rebut-toned his cuffs. I'll have Zhong Shui arrange for someone to take you home later. I have another meeting to attend. Zhao Yumei was left alone in the office. Furious, she couldn't resist sweeping a stack of files off his desk. As a result, a single sheet of paper fluttered to her feet. When she saw its contents, she froze in shock. Her mind was completely consumed by the words biological paternity relationship. She quickly bent down to pick up the appraisal report, and in an instant, she thought of the one she had done with Xiaochen before. Her heart was pounding wildly. The appraisal report didn't have any clear names labeled on it, but she just felt that this was the one. Her breathing became rapid, and with a guilty conscience, she picked up all the documents from the floor and neatly arranged them back on the corner of Jean Sicheng's desk. She stuffed the appraisal report into her handbag and, without waiting for Zhong Shui to arrive, went downstairs and left on her own. She needed to go back and verify properly. If Xiaochen truly was a descendant of the Zhong family, then he must certainly return to his ancestral roots. The arrival of the fourth senior brother instantly brought Yongjing, who had been missing for several days, out of hiding. Shuhan couldn't make it due to surgery, but Yongjing rushed over immediately. The moment she saw Lin Qingxing, she couldn't resist pinching his doll-like face. Where on earth have you been all this time? There was no news at all. If Shuhan hadn't mentioned it, I would have thought you'd been kidnapped by enemies and sunk into the sea. Lin Qingxing rolled his eyes. Xiao Qi, why are you as disrespectful as Xiao Ba? I'm your fourth senior brother. What fourth senior brother? You just entered the sect earlier, you little brat. Back when you were still wearing split pants. Yongjing. Lin Qingxing's face darkened. Yongjing curled her red lips into a charming smile. She knew it. Every time she brought up this embarrassing chapter of his past, he would shut his mouth. Lin Qingxing was so angry he didn't want to talk to Yongjing anymore. He picked up Xiaochen and went to the game room to play. Jiyu Yunyan peeled a banana and handed it to her. That day when you left with Lu Yangju, nothing happened. Right. Yongjing paused for a moment, her eyes flickering. What could have happened? I just slept with him. Jiyu Yunyan nearly choked to death with a snort. When did this happen? It was before. When I was drunk and did something stupid, Yongjing said nonchalantly, taking a bite of a banana. But it's no big deal. It was just mutual attraction. Consensual. If you didn't want to stay together, then it's over. No problem. I, Yongjing, don't need him anyway. Seeing how Lu Yangju had hurt Yongjing, Jiyu Yunyan grew angry, her brows furrowed deeply. That scumbag, if he didn't like you, why lead you on? I never thought he was that kind of person. If I'd known earlier, I wouldn't have worked with him on that project. Yongjing smiled. Why are you so against money? Business is business. I'm not a child. Just because he won't be with me doesn't mean you can't do business with him. Jiyu Yunyan narrowed her eyes slightly, her face filled with cold anger. I can't stand it. Maybe I'll go with fourth senior brother someday to ambush him with a sack and give him a beating. Yongjing scoffed lightly. It's not that serious. I'm just a bit unwilling to accept it. Do you know how he rejected me? Without waiting for Jiyu Yunyan's reply, she curled her lips and said coldly, he actually said our statuses aren't compatible. Jiyu Yunyan took a deep breath sharply. Inappropriate status. What era is this? Does he look down on you for being a celebrity? That's not it. Yongjing shook her head, feeling frustrated, which showed on her face. And there was even a hint of bewilderment in her eyes. He wasn't talking about that status, but about the generational hierarchy being inappropriate. Jiyu Yunyan looked utterly confused. What does that mean? Yongjing leaned back lazily on the sofa, slowly revealing a sarcastic smile. I'd like to know what he means too. There's no blood relation between us, nor any family ties. Where does this generational hierarchy even come from? Chapter 159, The Lu Family. As the two were talking, The nanny Xiaomai suddenly came over. Sister Ji, someone is looking for you outside. Yongjing raised an eyebrow, her delicate features flashing with surprise. Who could be looking for you at this time? Could it be Zhang Xiqing? Ji Union glanced at Xiaomai, her eyes clear and bright. Did they say who they were? Xiaomai replied, they said they were from the Lu family. Someone from the Lu family is looking for me. Ji Union instinctively turned to look at Yongjing, her expression somewhat inscrutable. Lu Yangju. Yongjing's expression also froze, her eyes narrowing slightly. Xiaomai's expression was a bit odd. She pursed her lips, her eyes filled with curiosity. Several people came. Old and young, it looked like the whole family showed up. Ji Yunyan wore a somewhat amused yet exasperated expression as she teasingly glanced at Yongjing. Could it be that their family found out about your relationship, tracked you down here, and forced Lu Yangju to come apologize to you? No need to see them. Yongjing curled her lips into a smile, a hint of bitterness flashing in her eyes. It's over, and there's nothing left to say, since they're already here. Why not meet them one more time? Let's hear what they have to say. Ji Yunyan persuaded. Xiaomai was given permission to go out and open the door. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the living room, and before long, Ji Yunyan saw the familiar elderly lady at the forefront. The elderly lady and gentleman were solemnly dressed in traditional Chinese attire, and their eyes reddened as they gazed at her from a distance. A look of surprise instantly flickered across Ji Yunyan's face. Is it really her? She was utterly astonished in her heart, never expecting that this elderly lady who had crossed paths with her several times was actually a member of the Lu family. She stood up from the sofa and walked toward the elderly lady. Madam, what brings you here? Her gaze quickly swept over the group of people behind the elderly lady. Noticing the seemingly refined but morally corrupt Lu Yangju among them, she glared at him fiercely before asking, Madam, what brings you all here this time? Lu Yangju also noticed Yongjing standing beside Ji Union. He narrowed his eyes slightly but remained silent. Upon hearing her words, old Madame Lu smiled, her slightly swollen eyes still glistening with tears, as if hesitant due to the emotional weight of the moment. She paused briefly before finally taking her hand. Nian Nian. Though this visit might seem presumptuous, she could no longer hold back, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. At times choking to the point of being unable to speak, old Mr. Lu, who was supporting him, was relatively calmer. He raised his hand to pat old Mrs. Lu's back, then looked up with reddened eyes at Ji Union and said, You are our Lu family's granddaughter. We came today to take you back home. Ji Union froze, her expression instantly turning cold. What proof do you have? Nyan Nyan, that day at the hotel. Your grandmother thought you looked just like our eldest daughter the moment she saw you. Afraid of startling you, we asked your uncle to approach you privately. Originally, we just wanted him to confirm, but who knew that blockhead would go and start a business deal with you, dragging it out for days without any progress. So, I had someone obtain a sample of your hair and conducted a kinship test. Old Mr. Lu sighed and continued, We got the test results at noon today. You are indeed a child of the Lu family. We've been searching for you for 20 years. If you don't believe it, you can look at the test report yourself. Ji Union took it and flipped through it briefly, then suddenly smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, her expression tinged with mockery. Any goodwill she had toward old lady Lu vanished completely in that moment. As she read the section with the paternity test results, she suddenly found the words glaringly harsh. She curled her lips slightly, her eyes icy cold. If it weren't for my master, I would have been eaten by wolves in the mountains long ago, since you never raised me back then, never wanted me, and just abandoned me on the mountain to fend for myself. Why go through all this trouble now to verify a paternity test? Why insist on finding me? I'm already grown up. I don't need so-called family anymore. That's not true. Old Lady Lu immediately denied her words, her face streaked with tears as she cried, How could we have abandoned you? We've been searching for you for 20 years. Chapter 160. Nyan Nyan, we didn't abandon you. Ji Union watched old Lady Lu cry so bitterly, and her heart felt somewhat heavy. With a cold expression, her indifferent gaze swept over everyone in the Lu family, lingering especially on Lu Yenzhou's 3 older brothers. As she said calmly, You claim you didn't abandon me, but back then, my master personally witnessed a woman leaving me on a desolate mountain. That damned woman. Old Lady Lu clenched her hands tightly. It was all the doing of your mother's agent. Back then, your mother was a household name, a superstar who lit up half the sky. She had you out of wedlock, and fearing that the scandal would ruin her career, that woman actually took you away while your mother wasn't looking and abandoned you. By the time we got the news, it was already too late. Though we searched for you tirelessly, we couldn't find a single trace. That woman would rather go to jail than reveal your whereabouts. Later, your mother passed away from heartbreak over your disappearance, still calling your name until her last breath. We never gave up looking for you. Had we known you were with the Jean family, we would never have allowed them to mistreat you like that. By the end, old Lady Lu was sobbing uncontrollably, her body trembling as if she might collapse at any moment. Gu Union watched her cry and couldn't help but feel moved. Yet, she didn't relent. Instead, she spoke calmly. Old Lady Lu, I'm sorry, but I can't bring myself to believe your words. Besides, all these years, my master raised me, and my senior brothers and sisters took care of me. They are my family. I don't want to judge whether what you said is true or false, or what the actual truth is. I've grown up now and don't need to seek out any additional relatives, so please just leave. Old Madame Lu pursed her lips, staring straight at her, unwilling to let go of her hand. Old Master Lu, standing nearby, let out a long sigh. It's all right, I understand how you feel. After all, for so many years, we haven't been by your side, though by blood, you are part of our family. Emotionally, we are just a group of strangers to you. It's normal for you to resist and reject us. He took old Madame Lu's hand and gently patted it in reassurance before continuing. Today, we came not only to see you but also to tell you that you are of the Lu family's bloodline. Whether you acknowledge it or not, we will always stand behind you. From now on, you're no longer an orphan, you have a family. No matter who tries to bully you, even if it's the Jean family, we won't stand for it. The Lu family will always be your stronghold, shielding you from the storm. You don't have to work so hard anymore. If you're willing, try leaning on us. To show how seriously they took this, the entire Lu family had turned out today. The eldest of the Lu family, Lu Yanhong, had been in politics for years. Though no longer young, he still carried himself with grace and gentle refinement. After the old Mr. Lu finished speaking, he nodded in agreement, looking at her with affectionate eyes. Nyan Nyan, your grandfather is right. We are all your family now. If anyone dares to bully you, the Lu family will make sure they regret it. Lu Yanhong's wife, Wen Yonglan, is a pianist. Just like her profession, she is gentle and soft-spoken, yet her actions are bold and unrestrained. Without hesitation, she slid a jade bracelet off her own wrist and slipped it onto Gu Yunyan's. This is your aunt's gift for meeting you. Compared to your current wealth, it's hardly worth mentioning, so don't refuse it. The second son of the Lu family, Lu Yangchuan, is an academic. His laboratory holds some of Huaju's most advanced core technologies. If it weren't for this family reunion, he would rarely be seen outside. With a serious expression, he nodded briefly and said concisely, if you ever need technical support in the future, you can come to me. For funding, go to your youngest uncle, we'll all help you. His wife, Tang Yutong, was the complete opposite in personality, cheerful, decisive in handling matters, and spoke with a crisp clarity. I won't say much else, but if that ex-mother-in-law of yours ever bothers you again with nonsense, just let me know, I'll tear her mouth apart for you. Lu Yangju cleared his throat lightly. From now on, we'll be working together on projects. Chapter 161, Fourth Senior Brother. The third brother, Lu Yangming, smacked Lu Yangju on the back of the head, signaling him to shut up. Then he smiled and explained to Gu Union, don't listen to your uncle, he's obsessed with money. In the future, if you're interested in any projects, just tell your eldest uncle directly, and he'll give you the green light. His generous tone made Gu Union's eyelids twitch. After a long moment of speechlessness, she said, sorry, but my company isn't lacking in projects. If there's ever a need, I'll strictly follow standard procedures and compete fairly. I have full confidence in my company's capabilities. Old Mr. Lu looked at her approvingly and smiled. The younger ones in the family are all at school today, so they couldn't come. If you agree, I'll bring them over on the weekend when they're free. This group of people today had already given Gu Union a terrible headache, and the thought of another group of little ones made her eyelids twitch uncontrollably. Without a second thought, she outright refused. I'm not really in the mood for that right now. The old man, upon hearing her words, immediately waved his hand dismissively. No problem. No problem. They're not important. You can meet them whenever you feel like it. GU Union. She forced a polite, artificial smile and said, if you have no other business today, then I must beg your pardon for not being able to entertain you further. I have guests at the moment, and it's rather inconvenient. As soon as she finished speaking, fourth senior brother Lin Qingxing came downstairs with Xiao Chen and Xiao Tian, carrying Xiao Xing in his arms. They had been in the game room earlier and had no idea what had just happened. The moment the three children and the adult appeared, the eyes of the Lu family members instantly lit up. Old Master Lu was the first to speak. Are these my three great-grandchildren? Old Madame Lu also widened her eyes, holding back her tears as her gaze settled on the little star in Lin Qingxing's arms. She couldn't help but murmur, how wonderful, they look just like our Lu family. Lu Yangming chuckled and said, exactly, Mom, look at these three treasures. They're practically carved from the mold of our Lu family, especially my little niece. Anyone who sees her would immediately recognize her as one of ours. And the two nephews look just like Binbin and Yang Yang from eldest brother's family when they were little. GU Union's lips twitched. Anyone could tell at a glance that Xiaochen's face resembled Zhon Xiqing's, yet Lu Yangming could still spout such nonsense with a straight face. Xiaoxing widened her eyes, staring at the sudden crowd in the room. Her beautiful, grape-like eyes glistened with moisture as she tilted her head to look at them. Everyone in the Lu family felt their hearts melt a little. Old Madame Lu's eyes reddened again, and she couldn't help but let out a choked sob. Xiaoxing slightly furrowed her delicate brows and patted Lin Qingxing's shoulder. Fourth Dad, put me down first. The moment this address left her lips, the gazes of everyone in the Lu family turned like spotlights onto Lin Qingxing. Lu Yanchuan's expression was the most serious. Second Aunt Tang Yutong knew what everyone was thinking. So she turned to GU Union and spoke bluntly. Nyan Nyan, is this your new boyfriend after dumping Zhon Xiqing? Although he looks a bit young, younger men have better stamina, lively personalities, and know how to take care of people. Second Aunt thinks he's great. Much better than that fourth young master of the Zhon family. Lin Qingxing stumbled and nearly fell to the ground, his face filled with disbelief. GU Union also coughed. You've misunderstood. This is my fourth senior brother, Lin Qingxing, and this is my seventh senior sister, Yongjing. Tang Yutong covered her mouth, wearing an apologetic expression. Look at my big mouth. Oh, I'm really sorry. All these years, thanks to you taking such good care of Nyan Nyan, treating her like your own little sister. Otherwise, we wouldn't dare imagine where she'd be or what would have become of her. Lu Yangchuan looked directly at Yongjing and said very bluntly, I remember you're a celebrity. I wonder if you're interested in tech products. Coincidentally, my lab's latest product hasn't had a celebrity endorsement yet. If you're interested, we could discuss it. Chapter 162, I'm your mommy's grandmother. Yongjing curled her lips slightly. Sorry, Mr. Lu, but this is my personal time, and I currently have no plans to take on work. While everyone was talking, Xiaoxing had already run to Grandma Lu's side. She pulled two tissues from the box on the table, stood on tiptoe, and handed them to Grandma Lu. Grandma, don't cry, wipe your tears. Her voice was sweet and clear, as if melting right into Grandma Lu's heart. The old lady, who had just begun to calm down, instantly lost her composure again. She took the tissues and gently held Xiaoxing's soft, chubby little hand. I'm your mommy's grandmother. You should call me great-grandma. Xiaoxing's eyes widened in surprise. She turned to look at GU Union with a puzzled expression. GU Union didn't resist Grandma Lu's approach to Xiaoxing. She gave Xiaoxing a slight nod. Little Star tilted her head, covering her mouth with her tiny hand, her eyes wide with curiosity. What kind of grandma is a great-grandma? Old Madame Lu was instantly amused through her tears. A great-grandma is your grandma's mother. Little Star nodded with a mix of understanding and confusion, her gaze wandering through the crowd before she asked innocently, Oh, then where is my grandma? Old Madame Lu smiled gently, holding back tears as she reached out to stroke the child's soft hair. Your grandma has gone to the sky. Xiaoxing frowned, looking at her with confusion, not quite understanding. Why would someone go to the sky? As soon as she asked this, old Madame Lu's tears fell once more. Xiaoxing took a tissue and gently dabbed her face. Great-grandma, be good, don't cry anymore. I stopped crying when I was 2. Xiaotian stepped forward, took Xiaoxing's hand, and looked at old Madame Lu politely with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry, my sister is quite naive, she didn't mean to upset you. It's all right, your mommy has raised you all very well. Old Mrs. Lu looked at the 3 children with relief, thinking that if her daughter's spirit in heaven could see this scene, she would surely be very comforted. Jiu Union looked at the crowd in the room, her eyebrow twitching slightly. She couldn't help but raise her hand to pinch it. Then glanced at Lu Yangju not far away. Suddenly, she understood what the incorrect generational hierarchy had meant. Lu Yangju also noticed her looking at him. He had just given her a smile when he received an eye roll from Jiu Union in return. Lu Yenzhou's expression froze for a moment, a flash of understanding passing through his eyes. Seeing everyone's attention focused on the 3 babies, he walked over to Jiu Union's side. Nyan Nyan. Jiu Union pulled a long face and glared at him coldly. Shut up, a scumbag like you doesn't deserve to call me Nyan Nyan. Lu Yangju, he gently pushed the plain glasses on the bridge of his nose with his left hand. What happened between me and Yongjing was an accident that day. I won't listen to your excuses. Jiu Union snorted, her expression dark. Get away from me right now, or don't blame me for being rude. After all, the moment I see you now, I just want to beat you up to vent my anger for my senior sister. Lu Yangju lowered his eyes, his profile exquisitely refined. No matter how gentle and amiable his appearance might seem, his gaze remained always rational and detached. But beating me up won't really achieve anything. Nyan Nyan, I'm your uncle. I would never do anything to hurt you. You're a rational person, and you know perfectly well that the situation between me and Yongjing is complicated. It's not something that can be explained in just a few words. You can't let your bias against me grow just because she's your senior sister. A mocking smile played on Jiu Union's lips. Little uncle, did I ever acknowledge that? Lu Yenzhou's face was expressionless, his deep eyes filled with helplessness. Jiu Union crossed her arms coldly. Regarding the project we collaborated on, I'll have someone hand it over to your Lu Corporation tomorrow. Lu Yenzhou's gaze faltered slightly. What do you mean by that? Jiu Union curled her lips, raised her head, and said arrogantly, it means exactly what it sounds like. I won't be collaborating with you on the project anymore. I can afford the penalty for breach of contract. Once the handover is complete, the money will be transferred to your company's account. Lu Yangju was about to say something when suddenly, Lu Yenming's puzzled voice came from behind. What money being transferred to the account? Ju, how could you take Nianyan's money? Chapter 163, I don't need anything. His voice wasn't soft, and in an instant, the gazes of everyone in the Lu family in the room fell upon Lu Yangju. If looks could kill, Lu Yangju would probably be riddled with holes and thoroughly dead by now. Old Mr. Lu raised his head from doting on his grandchild and immediately darkened his expression. Xiao Sai, what's going on? Though Lu Yenzhou's expression remained calm, his words came out a bit faster. Dad, don't listen to third brother. It's not like that. It's about the project I was working on with Nianyan. She insisted on cancelling our collaboration and said she'd pay me the penalty fee. Hearing this, Lu Yangming immediately asked, why cancel the collaboration? Is it because of us? Or did Lu Yangju screw you over? Lu Yangju, Lu Yangchuan calmly interjected from the side. Unlike your youngest uncle, your second uncle had the company's legal team prepare a contract in advance, gifting Nianyan 5% of the shares as a welcome present without compensation. Don't forget to sign it later. Lu Yangming also hurriedly added, your third uncle has prepared 12 luxury houses for you from around the world. Lu Yanhong cleared his throat lightly. Your eldest uncle has also prepared a gift for you, a 70-year contract for the land to the west that's pending development. Also, since your company is considered an overseas investment, you're eligible for annual tax exemption benefits. I can help you apply for that. Old Master Lu spoke directly and decisively, making the final call. No matter the reason, since Nyan Nyan doesn't want to continue, then she doesn't have to. Work is so exhausting, and we can't bear to see you constantly busy. Just hand that project over to Yang Ju. No need to terminate the contract when it's time for dividends. Have Yang Ju transfer all the profits directly to your company's account. Besides, Grandpa will give you an additional 30 billion as pocket money. Lu Yangju, Jiu Union was also speechless, her face numb. I don't need money, thank you, I don't need anything. If there's nothing else, let's call it a day for now. I have other things to attend to. Old Madame Lu also understood they shouldn't overstay their welcome, especially since GU Union hadn't yet agreed to acknowledge them. But today, she was already very satisfied. She believed that as long as her heart was sincere, her genuine feelings would surely move her. Then I won't keep you any longer. Old Madame Lu reluctantly glanced at GU Union. Could we exchange contact information? Although she had left her phone number for GU Union before, she had never called. Though she thought GU Union was even less likely to agree this time, she still held onto a sliver of hope. GU Union met her gaze and suddenly found it hard to refuse. She pulled up the QR code. Old Madame Lu looked contentedly at GU Union's profile picture in her contact list, finally satisfied with a beaming smile. Beside her, though Old Master Lu maintained a stern expression, his action of opening the scanning page betrayed his inner turmoil. In the end, GU Union added all of their chat accounts before they finally left. Before leaving, Lu Yangju glanced subtly at Yongjing, but she didn't look back at him. Lu Yangju narrowed his eyes slightly. Only when GU Union glared at him did he touch the tip of his nose and walk out. Finally, there was no one else left in the living room. GU Union let out a long sigh, slumped onto the sofa, and couldn't help but massage her temples in frustration. Yongjing gave her a knowing, half-smiling look. You talk tough, but your heart is still too soft. Really not planning to acknowledge it. GU Union didn't move, her voice weary. Let's wait and see. As soon as her words fell, suddenly, the phones of both her, Yongjing, and Lin Qingxing vibrated simultaneously. Lin Qingxing happened to have his phone in hand. He glanced at it and curled his lips. Seems I'm benefiting from Xiao Bie's luck. Yongjing casually took the phone and glanced at it. 2 billion. GU Union's phone kept vibrating incessantly at this moment. Bank notifications popped up one after another, finally stopping after receiving 9 consecutive messages. Each member of the Lu family had transferred money to her, totaling a staggering 80 billion when combined. Chapter 164, Don't Call Me Mom. GU Union saw the 80 billion and couldn't help but be moved, although she wasn't short of that 80 billion herself. The Lu family's evident regard made her feel slightly better. However, she didn't accept the money and returned every penny. When the Lu family received the bank notification, their disappointment was palpable. Old Lady Lu sighed. They were all returned. She won't even accept the gifts, so how can we even compensate her? What should we do? Old Mr. Lu, seeing her red-eyed and distressed expression, patted the back of her hand soothingly. Don't worry, Nian Nian is a good child. As long as we treat her sincerely, she will eventually see our sincerity. Lu Yanhong also chimed in to console her. Dad's right, Mom. Nian Nian has lived without family for over 20 years. Our sudden appearance must be hard for her to accept. Let's take it slow. She'll come to see our kindness and accept us one day. Tang Yutong couldn't help but interject. If you ask me, we shouldn't wait for one day. Isn't that Zhao Yumai from the Zhon family bullying her, and Shen Shujing from the Shen family too? Let's go stand up for her right now. Let them all know that our Nian Nian isn't without family. Lu Yangming nodded. I think second sister-in-law is right, and that Zhon Xiqing. Just because he's the 4th young master of the Zhon family, he keeps bullying our Nian Nian. We must teach him a lesson. Lu Yangju twitched the corner of his mouth beside him. Third brother, that's Zhon Xiqing we're talking about, not some random nobody. Do you really think you can teach him a lesson just by flapping your lips? Lu Yangming grew displeased and snorted. Whose side are you on anyway? Your surname is Lu. Instead of helping us come up with a plan, you're standing there making sarcastic remarks. No wonder Mom asked you to confirm whether Nian Nian is our family's child, and you took so long without any results. Lu Yangchuan frowned slightly, his expression serious. Yingfan has been working on new energy vehicles recently. I can refuse to share the TR6 technology with their company. When Yonglan asked gently, what should we do with this money then? She looked at Lu Yangju. How about this, Xiao Sai? You transfer it to her through the company's accounts. Lu Yangju shook his head. Sister-in-law, 80 billion is really not much for her. Her Zhenshin investment is a top global investment firm. They don't lack this amount at all. Moreover, without clear business dealings, their finance department won't be able to reconcile the accounts, and the money will just be returned eventually. Upon hearing his words, the Lu family matriarch couldn't help but glare at him. You can't even handle such a small matter properly. Your elder sister was so good to you for nothing back then. A hint of helplessness flashed across Lu Yenzhou's face. Mom. Old Madame Lu's expression was stern and serious, staring at him insistently. Don't call me Mom. If you can't handle this matter properly today, I won't have a son like you anymore. The next day, when GU Union went to work at the company, the Lu Group actually dispatched an entire team to hand over the previously collaborated project with Zhengxin. The person originally in charge of the project immediately panicked and rushed to GU Union's office. President, did I do something wrong? GU Union shook her head. Just proceed with the normal handover. No need to be nervous. This matter has nothing to do with you. The main reason is that Zhengxin won't be continuing with this project. I have another project to assign to you next. After she finished speaking, the person in charge visibly relaxed. The leader of the team sent by the Lu family treated GU Union with extreme politeness and respect, almost as if she were a revered ancestor, which left the Zhengxin employees quite astonished. GU Union knew this was probably prearranged. They had likely been informed of her identity in advance. Hence the exaggerated deference. She felt somewhat helpless about it. But she knew even if she said it, the other party wouldn't listen, so she simply let it be. Anyway, once the handover was done, the other party would leave and wouldn't keep being an eyesore in her company. The person in charge still remembered the instructions from their CEO. They had originally prepared to stay at Zhengxin Group for the long haul, but unexpectedly, right after completing the handover, the company's HR informed them to leave. Chapter 165, Xiao Chen is missing. The person in charge was dumbfounded. Unable to reason with HR, they came to find GU Union. President GU, our president said that from now on, we are considered seconded to Zhengxin to oversee part of this project. After all, there are quarterly dividends to consider, so it's better for us to stay at Zhengxin to facilitate company supervision and financial coordination. No need. GU Union rejected the idea without hesitation. Go back and tell your president directly. When I said the project was off, I meant it. Of course, we won't be taking any dividends either. The contract's penalty fee has already been transferred to your company's account. If there are no objections, let's consider this matter closed. The person in charge was stunned. This wasn't what had been agreed upon earlier. If he went back just like this, their president would surely kill him. But no matter what he said, GU Union refused to relent and even seemed somewhat impatient. The person in charge, having abandoned all sense of shame for the sake of his future career and prospects, decided to persist a little longer. President GU, but before he could finish speaking, GU Union's phone suddenly rang. She made a wait a moment gesture and answered the call. Whatever the other person said made her suddenly stand up. What did you say? What do you mean the child is missing? She had no energy left to deal with the person in charge and immediately handed them over to Dai Lei before grabbing her car keys and heading out. The person in charge thought for a moment, then quietly took out their phone to call Lu Yangju, informing him about what had happened with GU Union. When GU Union drove to the school, the teacher's eyes reddened the moment they saw her. We had a team-building activity today, and then we took them to the botanical garden. I went to scan the tickets midway and was away for a short while. When I came back, I noticed he was missing. I asked the other kids, but none of them knew where he went. I've already reported it to the police, but since it hasn't been 48 hours yet, they can't officially file a case. GU Union took a deep breath, her face calm. It's okay, let's search the area first. Xiao Chen is very smart and not the type to fool around. If he left on his own, he must still be nearby and wouldn't have gone far. The teacher nodded, looking at her with guilt. All right, I'll contact the school staff for help right away. GU Union called Lin Qingxing, fourth senior brother. Has Xiao Chen come home? Did he contact you earlier, on the phone? Lin Qingxing's voice carried a hint of confusion. Being highly perceptive, he instantly guessed something was amiss and asked, didn't he go to school? What happened? GU Union responded with a heavy then said, the teacher just called me and said Xiao Chen is missing. Lin Qingxing took a deep breath, realizing the gravity of the situation. Don't panic, I'll check the nearby surveillance footage right away. If I find anything, I'll notify you immediately. GU Union had complete faith in Lin Qingxing's hacking skills, which was one of the reasons she had called him first. There are surveillance cameras everywhere in this vicinity. If Xiao Chen was taken away by someone, Even if they managed to avoid one camera, it's impossible that no trace was left at all. While Jiyu Union was searching for him, Xiao Chen had already been taken to the Zhon family's ancestral home. No matter how clever he is, he's just a 4-year-old child this year. How could he possibly resist an adult? The person seized the opportunity, directly covering his face with an ether-soaked handkerchief, then tucked him under their arm and took him away without alerting anyone. The other party was extremely cautious, almost avoiding all surveillance cameras. In places where avoidance was impossible, his face remained completely obscured due to his heavy disguise. He even used fake license plates on his car, making it extremely difficult to track his movements. Fortunately, Lin Qingxing's skills were not for show. He quickly identified who the person was by following the surveillance footage, although the license plate number hadn't been traced yet. Knowing the person's identity made the subsequent search much easier. While investigating the individual, Lin Qingxing also discovered that the person had previously been hired by Zhao Yumai to investigate Jiyu Union. Chapter 166. After all, he is my child. Fearing Zhao Yumai might go back on her word, the other party deliberately recorded the conversation, which was discovered by Lin Qingxing and forwarded to Jiyu Union. Jiyu Union wasn't sure whether Xiao Chen had been taken away by Zhao Yumai's orders, but she suspected that Zhao Yumai must have learned about Xiao Chen's identity from Zhon Siqing. Furious, she gritted her teeth and decided to confront Zhon Siqing in person for answers. At Yingfan Corporation across the street, Zhon Siqing was in a meeting when Zhong Shuai knocked on the door, leaned in, and whispered, "The CEO's wife is here. Should we pause the meeting, or would you like me to have her wait in the lounge a little longer?" Zhon Siqing frowned slightly. "Nian Nian, did she say why she's here?" Zhong Shuai shook his head. "No, but she looks very upset. Something major must have happened." Zhon Siqing loosened his tie, stood up, his eyes darkening. "You take over the rest of the meeting." Zhong Shuai was taken aback for a moment. Today's meeting was very important, and he hadn't expected their CEO to just walk away without a care. "All right, I'll organize the meeting report afterward and send it to you." Zhon Siqing didn't even wait for him to finish speaking before leaving directly. Jiyu Union had already been brought to his office by Zhong Shuai. As soon as he pushed the door open and saw her, a faint smile flickered in his eyes. He curved his lips slightly, walked over to her, his dark eyes filled with warmth, and called softly, "Nian Nian." Jiyu Union suddenly looked up and raised her hand to slap him. Zhon Siqing's face darkened abruptly as he raised his hand and grabbed her wrist. Jiyu Union's hand was immobilized, her expression turned extremely unpleasant, her delicate face tense, radiating coldness. "Zhon Siqing, what did you promise me?" Zhon Siqing's expression darkened, a flicker of astonishment flashing in his deep eyes. "Nian Nian, what are you doing?" Jiyu Union's eyes were filled with anger, shining intensely. Her voice icy. "What am I doing? Give Xiao Chen back to me." Zhon Siqing frowned. "What do you mean?" Jiyu Union's face was cold, a flash of sharpness and determination in her eyes. "Xiao Chen just disappeared. Other than you and your mother, I can't think of anyone else who would take him." "Zhon Siqing, I told you. If you lay a finger on him, I'll fight you to the death." Zhon Siqing's eyes darkened, his pupils contracting sharply as he grabbed her shoulders. "You're saying someone took Xiao Chen?" Jiyu Union curled her lips into a mocking smile, her eyes devoid of any warmth. "Don't play dumb with me." After a moment of silence, Zhon Siqing took out his phone, his expression dark and his eyes filled with a chilling intensity. "It wasn't me, but don't worry. I'll help you investigate." No matter what the other party's motives were, daring to lay a hand on his son was simply asking for death. But right now, he needed to confirm whether that person was his mother. Zhon Siqing called home, leaving Zhao Yumai utterly bewildered by his questioning, but soon, her voice couldn't help but rise, filled with anger. "What do you mean the child is missing? Why would I take the child for no reason? I'm the child's grandmother. If I wanted to see him, would I need to resort to such methods? Why are you still wasting time talking to me? Hurry up and go look for him. If anything happens to my precious eldest grandson of the Zhon family, I won't let you off the hook." Zhon Siqing hung up the phone and immediately made several calls. Jiyu Union's face was cold, her eyes brimming with disappointment. When Zhon Siqing looked at her, he was instantly hurt by the gaze in her eyes. His movements paused slightly as his pitch-black eyes stared deeply at her. He said calmly, "Nian Nian, you don't trust me. You think I did this? I don't trust anyone. Ji Union replied coldly, slightly raising her chin, a flash of hatred flickering in her eyes. She knew Zhang Xiqing wouldn't do something so tasteless, but who could say whether today's danger had been brought about because of him? After all, Xiao Chen looks so much like him. Over the years, he has controlled the Zhang family and had Yingfan by his side. In the business world, he could turn clouds into rain with a flip of his hand, and many have fallen at his hands. A flicker of disappointment flashed in Zhang Xiqing's eyes. He didn't say much, only coldly stating, I will find Xiao Chen. After all, he is my child. Chapter 167. I won't allow it. Ji Union didn't speak when suddenly her phone rang. The voice on the phone was system-altered and distorted. The caller demanded that if she wanted her child to remain unharmed, she must go alone to the Iha hotel, or else they would not hesitate to kill the child. Ji Union frowned. The call ended abruptly. The caller had used a virtual internet number, which only allowed one-way calls. She had no idea what their true intentions were, but kidnapping Xiao Chen and ordering her to go to a hotel was clearly abnormal, not the kind of move a typical kidnapper would make. She immediately grabbed her phone and called her fourth senior brother while heading out the door. He hadn't taken 2 steps before Zhang Xiqing stopped him. I'll go with you. Let's have someone check out the situation at that hotel first. No need for you to say it. Ji Union withdrew her hand, her face expressionless, yet Zhang Xiqing forcefully pulled her into his embrace. Nyan Nyan, at times like these, you can try leaning on me. Ji Union curled her lips slightly, pressed against his shoulder, and pushed him away. You'd better make sure today's incident really has nothing to do with you, or I don't know what I might do. Zhang Xiqing looked at Ji Union with some helplessness in his eyes, but when he raised his head again, his gaze was completely cold. He instructed the driver, Xiao Zhong, head to the Iha Hotel on Guangtai Road. The hotel was very close to the company, and soon the two arrived. However, she didn't let Zhang Xiqing go in with her to avoid alerting the enemy. Zhang Xiqing's face darkened, and of course, he refused to agree. How could he possibly let Ji Union put herself in danger? He grabbed Ji Union's wrist, exuding a murderous aura. No, I won't allow it. Ji Union looked up. Then what do you suggest? Can you find Xiao Chen or the mastermind behind this? Zhang Xiqing's face was tense. Ji Union yanked her hand free, then took the room key from the front desk and went upstairs. Zhang Xiqing punched the glass with his fist, and the car immediately emitted a piercing alarm. He took out his phone and ordered, go investigate. That person must be nearby too. If you can't catch them today, none of you need to come back tomorrow. The room number the other party mentioned was on the 16th floor. After finding it, she swiped the card to open the door. However, she didn't enter immediately. After the door was kicked open, the room was completely visible at a glance. There was nothing inside. Ji Union's expression turned cold. He took out his phone and, sure enough, the other party called again. She answered, her tone icy. Where's Xiao Chen? The person on the other end of the line laughed somewhat arrogantly. You haven't gone in yet. Once you do, you'll naturally find out. Ji Union knew that since the other party insisted on her going in, they must have already set up some tricks inside, but she wasn't afraid. Her fourth senior brother had already started investigating for her. What if the other party is using an internet phone? As long as they keep contacting me, fourth senior brother will quickly pinpoint their location. She let out a cold laugh, her red lips curling as her gaze swept around the room before casually drifting across the entire hotel corridor. You'd better mean what you say. The sound of high heels against the thick carpet was muffled and dull. As soon as Ji Union entered the room, she caught a whiff of a strange odor and immediately held her breath. After the door closed, she walked a few steps to the balcony and opened the window. Turning her head, she spotted the incense burner placed on the nearby bedside table. Without a second thought, she unscrewed a bottle of water and poured it in. The wisp of smoke rising from the incense burner instantly vanished. She had expected something more, but this was all there was. To be honest, she felt a little disappointed. Such a cheap trick. She really couldn't fathom what the other person was thinking. It probably won't be long before unfamiliar men come through the door, right? Would she have to play along and pretend to be unconscious? Chapter 168. If there's a next time, I'll lock you up. But she had just checked earlier. There were no hidden cameras or surveillance in the room. So the other party shouldn't know her situation inside. The incense was mixed with some sedatives and aphrodisiacs, but to her, it was completely ineffective. Back in the day, under their master's hands, they had endured far worse. Such trivial tricks were truly beneath her. She searched the room once more but found nothing. Finally, she stopped, yet after waiting for a while, no one came to continue the act. Growing impatient, she received a call from fourth senior brother, Little 8. The location is confirmed. They're in the building opposite your hotel. GU Union curled her lips into a cold smile. Over there. Are they planning to use binoculars to observe this side so they can retreat in time if there's any danger? Ha, she's just both stupid and vicious. Lin Qingxing chuckled. I've already sent someone over, and they'll be caught soon. You don't need to stay any longer. Besides, I've also located Xiao Chen's position. I'll go there myself later, so don't worry. GU Union's eyes flickered, her voice slightly cold. Lin Qingxing, thanks, I'll cook for you as a reward when we get back. Lin Qingxing snorted, you're being disrespectful again. How many times have I told you? Call me senior brother. The call ended. After waiting for so long without any follow-up, she had lost all patience to continue playing games with them. She walked straight to the door, intending to pull it open and leave. But to her surprise, just as she touched the doorknob, the sound of a card swipe immediately came from the door. She swiftly sidestepped to the side just as the door was pushed open from the outside. GU Union immediately executed a grappling move, seizing the opponent's arm with one hand while locking their throat with the other, aiming to subdue them. However, when she touched the person, a familiar scent reached her nose, and she frowned deeply. Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing firmly grasped her wrist, turned around, and pulled her from behind to face him. After carefully examining her and confirming she was unharmed, he finally relaxed. His expression was extremely grim as he cupped GU Union's head and kissed her fiercely. GU Union froze for a moment before reacting, her face darkening instantly. Zhang Xiqing, are you crazy? Let me go. Then she opened her mouth, which only made it more convenient for Zhang Xiqing's actions. His cold, stern face was filled with hidden fury and aggression, as if punishing her. Kissing her with such force that it seemed he wanted to devour her whole. GU Union narrowed her eyes slightly, her expression icy cold, and immediately threw a punch at him. Zhang Xiqing grabbed her wrist, forcefully twisted it behind her back, and pulled her into his embrace. His sinister eyes, tinged with a faint bloodlust, gazed at her with a chill so intense it seemed to freeze the surrounding air. He released her, his thumb roughly grazing her cheek twice. His voice low and laced with an unyielding threat, don't ever put yourself in danger again. If there's a next time, I'll lock you up for sure. GU Union's lips curled into a cold, mocking smile as she pushed him away without hesitation, wiping her lips fiercely before retorting icily, what I do is none of your business. If you want to lose your mind, go somewhere else. Don't interfere with my search for the child. Zhang Xiqing firmly grasped her wrist, his gaze deep and intense. Xiao Chen has been found. GU Union abruptly looked up. Zhang Xiqing's icy eyes stared straight at her. His fair, slender fingers, now tense, revealed distinct knuckles, and the veins on the back of his hand slightly bulged. His large hand gripped her chin, forcing her to lift her head and meet his gaze. The man's thin lips pressed into a displeased straight line, his expression domineering and sharp. He knew every inch of her body intimately. His large hand gave a gentle pinch at the small of her back, and GU Union stiffened abruptly. Caught off guard, I've already sent Zhong Shuai to pick him up. You'll see him soon. Right now, we're talking about you. Chapter 169. He is my life. Zhang Xiqing's lips curled into a malicious sneer. Why so silent? Charging straight here to accuse me without a second thought. Nyan nyan, even a judge demands evidence. His thumb gently explored the hollow of her waist. And GU Union felt a tingling itch slowly spreading from that spot to her limbs. She knew she had suspected the wrong person, but seeing his despicable behavior, she suddenly didn't want to apologize to him. She forced a smile, trying to calm herself down. I didn't wrong your mother in the investigation, did I? What did you promise me back then? Zhang Xiqing lowered his eyes slightly, giving her cheek an indifferent glance before speaking casually. I'll keep her in check. She won't bother Xiao Chen. I don't trust you anymore. GU Union spoke rapidly, her face full of impatience. I don't have time to argue with you about this right now. I need to see Xiao Chen immediately. Zhang Xiqing curled his lips slightly, letting out a low chuckle. You haven't agreed to me yet. Jiu Union raised an eyebrow, looking at him coldly. I've already told you, Zhang Xiqing. You have no right to demand anything from me now. We're divorced and have nothing to do with each other anymore. Your words don't count. The man's voice was deep and magnetic, carrying a faint sense of aggression and danger. Jiu Union frowned and raised her hand, ready to strike. Yet the next second, she was once again grabbed by the wrist by Zhang Xiqing. Nyan Nyan. If you dare to fight me here, I dare to make sure you won't leave through this door. He spoke casually, but his eyes were dark and unfathomable. Jiu Union subtly tried to pull her hand back, only to find his grip was unyielding. She had no intention of lingering with him, so she nodded perfunctorily. Fine, I agree. Zhang Xiqing glanced at her lightly, his eyes filled with sarcasm and mockery, his hand resting on Jiu Union's neck gently stroked twice before he suddenly leaned in, whispering by her ear, "Good." Jiu Union broke out in goosebumps all over and pushed him away abruptly. Now you should take me to see Xiao Chen. Don't rush. Zhang Xiqing narrowed his eyes slightly. Zhong Shuai has gone to pick up Xiao Chen. You should rest assured. Let's deal with those who don't know their place first. Jiu Union let out a cold laugh, her beautiful eyes glinting with icy light. I believe in fourth young Master Zhong's capabilities. I'll leave the person to you. Unlike your cold-blooded self, Xiao Chen is as precious as my life to me. Seeing that Zhang Xiqing refused to let go, she clenched her fist and swung at his indifferent face, while he blocked. She simultaneously lifted her foot and aimed a kick at his vulnerable spot. Zhang Xiqing swiftly caught her ankle, narrowing his eyes slightly, his cool, profound gaze darkened with intensity. Where exactly are you aiming? If you break it, how will you use it in the future? Jiu Union curled her lips into a frigid smile, her eyes suddenly sharpening. Without another word, she twisted her hand and lunged for his eyes. Zhang Xiqing didn't want to fight her, but Jiu Union didn't care at all. She had been wanting to beat him up for a long time, though she knew she couldn't win against him. At least taking a swing would help vent her frustration. After several attempts were blocked by him, and seeing he had no real intention of fighting back, Jiu Union seized the chance and bit him on the neck. The moment her teeth sank in, she let go, swiftly pressed the door handle, and darted out. Then the door slammed shut with a bang. Standing right at the door was Zhong Shuai, who immediately blocked Jiu Union as soon as he saw her. Madam, get lost. A flash of cold fury crossed Jiu Union's eyes. Move aside now if you don't want a beating. She was seething with anger now, having no patience whatsoever to deal with irrelevant people. Zhong Shuai had no idea what Zhang Xiqing intended to do, so he instinctively took a step back, clearing the way for her. Her high heels clicked crisply against the marble floor as she strode to the elevator and stepped inside. As the elevator doors closed, she caught sight of the man emerging from the room. Their eyes met through the closing gap, Zhang Xiqing's dark, inscrutable gaze flashing with cold intensity, while Jiu Union stared back unflinchingly. Chapter 170. I know where your son is. Zhang Xiqing didn't order anyone to stop her. Watching silently as the elevator doors slowly closed, Zhong Shuai glanced at him. President, Zhang Xiqing stared intently at the elevator and asked coldly, "Did you catch him?" Zhong Shuai withdrew his gaze, nodded, and replied respectfully, "We've already caught him. The target was receiving instructions from the employer via a mobile phone, but I've traced the signal back and finally located it at the He family." Zhang Xiqing let out a cold laugh. It seems the He family hasn't learned their lesson. Zhong Shuai didn't dare to make a sound and followed behind Zhang Xiqing as they headed to the neighboring hotel together. The hotel had already been secured by their people, with the man tied up, gagged, and thrown on the floor. Zhong Shuai pushed open the door, and Zhang Xiqing slowly walked in. His custom-made leather shoes left a slight indentation on the carpet as he stepped, which quickly returned to its original state. The man could only see a small patch of the floor in front of him. When the leather shoes stopped before him, he immediately let out muffled whimpers. Zhang Xiqing let out a cold laugh and stepped forward, pressing his leather shoe onto the man's fingers and grinding down mercilessly. The man's eyes widened in pain, his entire body stiffening instantly. Zhang Xiqing slightly leaned down and personally tore off the black cloth covering the man's eyes, saying coldly, "Daring to touch my people, you've got quite the nerve." The man's face instantly drained of color at the sight of Zhang Xiqing, and a cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Zhang Shuai stepped forward and removed the gag from his mouth. The man immediately began to plead for mercy. "Fourth young Master Zhang, I know I was wrong. I really didn't dare. When I took this job, I had no idea she was your person. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have dared even with 10 times the courage." Zhang Xiqing curled his lips, his eyes filled with coldness. He straightened up and walked over to the laptop nearby, lightly tapping the keyboard a couple of times to bring up the surveillance footage. "What are you trying to do with that hidden camera?" "No." The man was about to deny it outright when Zhang Shuai kicked him hard. "Tell the truth. If you dare waste time with nonsense again, I'll cut off one of your fingers." The man immediately shrank back. "It's not my fault. My employer made me do it. She wanted revenge on Miss Gu, so she set up this whole scheme. I was just following orders." Before coming here, the man had already been beaten once. There wasn't a single good spot left on his body, and his courage had long since been shattered. At Zhang Shuai's words, he immediately spilled everything like pouring beans from a sack. Zhang Shuai glanced at Zhang Xiqing, then tossed the man's phone in front of him. "You know what to do. No need for me to teach you, right?" The man froze for a moment, cold sweat pouring down his body as if a faucet had been turned on, soaking him completely in no time. He nodded. I know." Zhang Shuai gave a look to the bodyguard beside him, who then stepped forward to untie the ropes binding his hands. With trembling hands, the man dialed that number. The call connected quickly, perhaps fearing retaliation from Zhang Xiqing. He cleverly fabricated a lie, convinced the other party, and then hung up. He stood nervously, hands at his sides, watching Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the scenery outside. After a long pause, he finally spoke slowly. "Let's go." Gu Union left the hotel and headed straight home. Little did he expect to be stopped by Shen Shujing right at the entrance of the neighborhood. She knocked on her car window. Gu Union impatiently rolled down the window and looked at her coldly. "What do you want?" Shen Shujing quickly glanced at her and said, "I know where your son is." Gu Yunyan's previously indifferent expression suddenly froze, her sharp gaze landing on Shen Shujing as she narrowed her eyes slightly. "What do you mean? I'll help you find your son, and you help the Shen family through this crisis." Shen Shujing's expression was brimming with confidence, even carrying a hint of smugness. Gu Union curled her lips coldly, as if intrigued by the words, and asked, "How did you get this information?" Chapter 171. "Was it you who took my son?" Shen Shujing's expression froze for a moment. "I've seen you with your son before, and today I accidentally witnessed the scene of him being kidnapped. Because he looks so much like Xiqing, I recognized him at a glance." Gu Union calmly observed her. "How can I be sure the information you're providing is true?" Shen Shujing looked at her with an air of inevitability, as if she had already anticipated Gu Union's response. "You have no choice but to believe me, don't you? As soon as the funds are transferred, I'll give you the address immediately." Gu Union smiled slowly, her eyes filled with mockery. "Shen Shujing, do you really think I'm a fool?" Shen Shujing was stunned, unable to speak for a long while. Gu Yunyan's fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel twice. "You said you've seen me and my son together before. I want to know when and where that was." Shen Shujing's expression turned slightly panicked. She hadn't expected her to be so patient in getting to the bottom of things instead of urgently asking about Xiaochun's whereabouts. Swallowing hard, she replied coldly, "It was too long ago. I don't remember exactly where I saw you. Maybe at an amusement park or an aquarium. I happened to run into you when you were taking him out to play." Gu Yunyan's face tightened abruptly, her eyes turning icy. "You're lying. I don't have it. If you don't believe me, forget it. After all, you don't even care about your own son." Shen Shujing gritted her teeth, furious that Gu Yunyan could be so ungrateful. With her son's life hanging in the balance, she still had the nerve to dwell on this. With that, she pretended to be provoked and feigned leaving. She believed that as a mother, Gu Yunyan couldn't possibly remain indifferent when her son was in danger. She thought Gu Yunyan was just putting on an act, posturing to manipulate her. Gu Yunyan let out a cold laugh, watching Shen Shujing's retreating figure as she said indifferently, "I've never taken Xiaochen out before." "Shen Shujing, it seems you're involved in today's incident too." Shen Shujing desperately wanted to pretend she hadn't heard, but she couldn't stop herself from halting. She turned her head, forcing herself to appear composed. I don't know what you're talking about, although we have deep conflicts between us, because today's matter involves a child. I was just kindly informing you. Who would have thought you'd actually blame me for it? I really shouldn't have meddled. Kindly. Gu Yunyan's voice dripped with sarcasm. Shen Shujing, no one is a fool. You can leave today if you want. I'll investigate this matter thoroughly. If I find out you're involved, neither you nor the Shen family will get off lightly. Shen Shujing's face suddenly changed. During this period, for the sake of the Shen family, she and Shen Changhai had truly exhausted all possible means. Recently, she had become so thin that her appearance was almost unrecognizable, which was why she resorted to desperate measures, threatening Gu Yunyan and targeting her as a breakthrough. Yet, not only did she gain nothing, but she also ended up being targeted by Gu Yunyan in return. I just wanted to make a deal with Miss Gu. If you're unwilling, fine. But to speculate about me with such dark thoughts and even threaten to target my family, Gu Yunyan, don't you think you're being a bit too much? Shen Shujing clenched her fists, a flash of humiliation and resentment crossing her face. Gu Yunyan crossed her arms and sneered, if you were in my position, you'd be even worse. Shen Shujing, I'm a mother, you should know that sometimes threatening a mother's child is more dangerous than anything. But this time, you've gotten smarter. Knowing how to use others to do your dirty work, just hope your tracks are clean. Otherwise, Shen Shujing believed she had erased all evidence when she leaked the information to He Wenqing. She believed that no matter what, Gu Yunyan would never trace anything back to her. So she straightened her back and looked at Gu Yunyan. Watching Gu Yunyan like this, she felt nothing but pain and hatred in her heart. Gu Yunyan was just a country bumpkin from the countryside. Back then, no one knew what tricks she had used to marry Zhang Xiqing. She had exhausted all her means to get Zhang Xiqing to agree to marry her, only to be kicked out. Yet, somehow, she ended up becoming the CEO of Zhongshan, turning the tables and ruining her wedding. Chapter 172, Mommy, don't cry. The mere thought of Zhang Xiqing exposing her pregnancy, causing her engagement to be publicly ruined on the spot, Shen Shujing's heart ached as if pierced by needles. The pain was so intense she could almost feel her eyes dripping with blood. Wishing she could rush forward and scratch Gu Yunyan's face to shreds, her eyes widened instinctively as she glared furiously at Gu Yunyan. Fine, consider me meddling, go ahead and investigate. So what if you have some money? Gu Yunyan, even with your wealth, you can't change the fact that you're just a country bumpkin from the sticks. Xiqing's mother would never let someone like you step through the Zhang family's door. Ha, you think I care? Gu Yunyan gave her a bewildered look. I thought you'd finally gotten a little smarter, but it turns out you're just as foolish and venomous as ever. I'm the CEO of Zhongshan Group myself, with billions in monthly revenue. Do you really think I'd covet the position of the young madam of the Zhang family? Besides, it's Zhang Xiqing who's begging for my forgiveness now. Whether I step through the Zhang family's doors again depends entirely on my decision. What if Zhao Yumai doesn't like it? What can she do about it? 5 years ago, I married into their family, and 5 years later, if I nod, I can walk right back in. The only difference is, I don't care to. Shen Shujing had always believed that no matter how capable Gu Yunyan was, Zhao Yumei's dislike would keep her out of the Zhang family, forever relegating her to a lower status. But hearing these words, she suddenly felt her whole world crumbling. She seemed unwilling to believe Gu Yunyan's words, letting out a cold laugh as she looked at her with disdain. What do you mean you don't care? It's just an excuse because you can't marry into the family. Gu Yunyan, all you can do is talk tough. Gu Yunyan indifferently averted her gaze. Unwilling to waste time with a fool, she was in a hurry to get home to see Xiao Chen. She rolled up the car window without hesitation, reversed, and then slammed the accelerator to the floor. The car surged forward, forcefully shoving Shen Shujing's vehicle aside before speeding through the security booth and into the neighborhood. Shen Shujing let out a sharp scream, never expecting her to be so reckless. Her face drained of color from fright, and it took her a long moment to react. Staring at the utterly mangled trunk of her car, she stomped her feet in fury and shrieked, "Lunatic, you absolute lunatic." Her entire body trembled with rage. This car was the last decent one she had left. The rest of the cars had long been taken and sold by her father to pay off debts. She had specifically driven it today to put on a respectable front when meeting Gu Yunyan. only for GU Union to crash into it like this. How could she not be furious? She clenched her fists, itching to take out her phone, photograph the car, and call the police to demand compensation from GU Union. But her hand felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds, unable to lift for a long time. Because it was too humiliating, she couldn't bear that shame. She clenched her fists, a flash of malice toward GU Union flickering in her eyes. Go ahead and be arrogant. So what if you can bear Jean Sicheng's son? Let's see how you'll act tough after your child is killed. She must see her cry with her own eyes when the time comes. GU Union's car had been modified. While Shen Shujing's car was smashed to such a state, hers remained completely unscathed. She quickly parked the car in the underground garage, then took the elevator upstairs. The moment she saw Xiao Chen, she pulled him into her arms. Xiao Chen froze for a moment, seeing her like this. He obediently wrapped his arms around her in return, even gently patting her back as he softly reassured her, "Mommy, don't be scared, I'm fine. Fourth dad saved me just in time. I just took a nap and then saw him. Don't be afraid anymore, okay?" Hearing Xiao Chen say this, little Xiaoxing beside him imitated his brother's gesture, stepping forward to gently pat GU Union's shoulder. With an innocent, milky voice, he said, "Mommy, don't cry. Your eyes will get puffy and won't look pretty Tilda." The gloom in GU Union's heart was instantly swept away by her baby's words. She gave them a look that was both amused and exasperated, lightly tapping their noses with her finger. "You little rascals. Teasing your own mommy now." Xiao Chen smirked and even raised an eyebrow. "Well, you were the one who looked like the sky was falling. As gentlemen, how could we just stand by and watch a girl be sad? Of course we had to cheer you up." Chapter 173, I want to meet your CEO. GU Union couldn't help but laugh. "Well then, little man, tell me, if you're so capable, how did you end up getting kidnapped?" Little Chen sighed, patting his little belly with a hint of resentment. "It's all because I'm too handsome. People notice me right away. From now on, I need to eat more and grow taller. If anyone tries to tuck me under their arm, they'll have to see if they're even capable." Xiao Tian glanced at him lightly out of the corner of his eye and said coolly, "I think it's more reliable for you to just keep eating until you're round." Xiao Chen scrunched up his little face. "No, round is too ugly. There's a chubby kid in our class who's practically as wide as he is tall. Like a stone pillar. If you look that ugly, no girls will like you." Xiaoxing pursed her lips in disdain. "So full of yourself, no girls like you now either." All the little friends around her absolutely adored their big brother. As for the second brother, that hair-pulling troublemaker, he didn't deserve any girl's affection. GU Union's mood completely relaxed as she rubbed the tops of her three treasures' heads. "Little Chen got quite a scare today. Let's go out to eat. It'll help dispel his bad luck." Xiaoxing clapped her hands. Yes, let's invite 6th dad and 7th mom too." GU Union looked around and only then noticed someone was missing. She frowned slightly. "Where's your 4th dad?" Xiao Tian said slowly. "4th uncle said he went to stand up for Xiao Chen, and left right after coming back." GU Union stood up. "I'll give him a call. Let's hope Lin Qingxing doesn't run into Zhang Sicheng." Her call came just as Lin Qingxing arrived at the entrance of Yingfan. He glanced at it and hung up. He went straight into the company. The security guard at the door immediately stopped him. "Who are you? Do you have an appointment?" Lin Qingxing smiled, his expression cold. "I want to see your CEO." The security guard frowned, looking impatient. "If you have an appointment, go in. If not, leave. This isn't a place just anyone can enter." Lin Qingxing gave him a faint glance. "An appointment?" "Sure." He directly pulled out his phone, inserted a tiny USB drive into it, and then started typing away furiously. The security guard was completely baffled, unsure what this person was doing here. Could he be applying for a programmer position at their company? But what kind of applicant doesn't submit a resume and instead types code at the company entrance? What kind of nonsense is this? He was just about to drive Lin Qingxing away when the latter suddenly stopped. A faint smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. Watching the security guard stretch his neck, he said coolly, "Someone will be down to pick me up soon." The security guard's lips twitched, utterly unconvinced. "If you're sick, go to a mental hospital. This isn't the place for your nonsense. Get out of here now. If you keep blocking the entrance, don't blame me for being rude." "How exactly do you plan to be rude?" "By using your baton to drive me away maliciously. You told me to make an appointment, and I did. Didn't I just say someone's coming to get me soon? What? Does your company judge people by their appearance before meeting them? Lin Qingxing glanced at the object in the security guard's hand and asked disdainfully. The security guard's face immediately darkened, and he was just about to forcibly drive them away when a cold voice suddenly came from the entrance. What happened? He turned his head and saw a group of bodyguards surrounding Zhang Xiqing as he walked in. Dressed in a black suit, Zhang Xiqing exuded an intense chill, his face gloomy and his eyes deep and unreadable, revealing no emotion. The security guard took one look and was instantly terrified. He swallowed hard and quickly said to Zhang Shuai, half complaining and half excusing himself, "This person didn't have an appointment and tried to force his way into the company. I stopped him. But he got upset and started acting crazy at the entrance. That's why I wanted to kick him out." Zhang Shuai looked over at Lin Qingxing, and upon seeing his face, he froze for a moment. "It's you." At that moment, his phone rang. He had no choice but to close his mouth and answer the call, but accidentally, he hit the speakerphone button, and the panicked voice of the head of the technical department came through. "Assistant Zhang, what should we do? The company is under threat from a hacker. If no one goes downstairs to bring him into the company within 5 minutes, he's going to launch an attack." Chapter 174. As soon as the voice on the phone fell silent, the entire first floor became quiet. Lin Qingxing curled his lips and provocatively glanced at Zhang Xiqing. "It's me. Your company's security wouldn't let me in, insisting I needed an appointment, so I had to resort to a little trick. But don't worry, it's just a small program to give your company's programmers a scare. It won't cause any real damage." Zhang Xiqing glanced at Lin Qingxing with a faint look, his aura icy and his gaze deep. He slowly smiled, recalling the investigation Zhang Shuai had previously conducted about his identity. "Fourth senior brother." Lin Qingxing's face darkened instantly, nearly bristling with anger as he retorted sharply, "Who's your senior brother? Don't go claiming kinship out of nowhere." A trace of imperceptible coldness tinged Zhang Xiqing's tone as he looked at him indifferently. "Let's go upstairs." The group walked straight past Lin Qingxing and headed toward the elevator. Lin Qingxing cursed under his breath. He had heard of his reputation before but never dealt with him directly. He never expected the guy to be this arrogant. He curled his lips. What's the big deal about going upstairs? Even if it was Zhang Xiqing's territory, so what? Lin Qingxing had never been afraid of anything. Inside the elevator, Zhang Shuai stole a glance at Lin Qingxing and couldn't help but click his tongue in surprise. At first glance, this person clearly has ill intentions. He quietly glanced at his CEO and, noticing the expressionless face, decided to mimic him by putting on a stern look as well. As the top assistant at Yingfan, he couldn't afford to embarrass their CEO. Lin Qingxing had no idea Zhang Shuai was having such a rich inner monologue. He just felt someone sneaky behind him, staring relentlessly. He lazily turned his head and glanced at him indifferently. "Do I have an extra arm, or an extra eye?" Zhang Shuai was taken aback for a moment. "No." Lin Qingxing's smile remained unchanged, but his words carried a heavy sense of hostility. "Then why are you sneaking glances at me? What? Has your CEO done so many guilty deeds that you feel guilty just looking at me?" Zhang Shuai was instantly choked and began coughing violently. He forced himself to calm down and said indifferently, "I don't know what Mr. Lin means." Lin Qingxing curled his lips slightly, casting a critical gaze at Zhang Xiqing. "Then fourth young master Zhang should know, right? After all, our Xiaoba has been bullied by you so many times before, and today's incident. Shouldn't fourth young master Zhang give us an explanation?" Zhang Xiqing let out a light laugh, his eyes calm. "What kind of explanation do you want?" Lin Qingxing looked disgusted. "From now on, neither you nor your mother are to harass Xiaoba and the child again." "Impossible." Zhang Xiqing tugged at his tie, exuding an air of indifference. His dark, unfathomable eyes revealed nothing. "How is visiting my wife and son considered harassment?" Lin Qingxing clenched his fists tightly. "Your wife and son, if you knew this would happen, why did you act the way you did? Regretting the divorce now, if you don't find it disgusting yourself, don't come disgust Xiaoba. She's never been one to go back to her ex, whether she does or not isn't up to you." Zhang Xiqing lifted his gaze, his eyes coolly resting on him with an undeniable pressure. Lin Qingxing was highly sensitive to danger. He narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Of course I have a say in Xiaoba's matters. I'm her senior brother. What does being a senior brother matter?" Even if Nyan Nyan's father were here, he couldn't control her thoughts and actions. The elevator emitted a beep, and the doors slid open on both sides. Zhang Xiqing was the first to step out. Lin Qingxing followed behind him and entered the office together. His gaze swept around Zhang Xiqing's office, noticing that the floor-to-ceiling windows directly faced Jiyu Yunyan's office building. He recalled how Xiao Ba had said choosing this location was meant to annoy him and cause trouble. Yet now, it had unexpectedly worked to his advantage. Lin Qingxing found himself a seat, crossed his legs, and looked disdainfully at Zhang Xiqing not far away. People say the fourth young master of the Zhang family is formidable, holding immense power in Huaju, but I don't believe it. Since you're so persistent about Xiao Ba, unable to forget her, let's make a bet. Chapter 175, 10 minutes for you. Zhang Xiqing glanced at him. What kind of bet do you want to make? Lin Qingxing snapped his fingers. Let's bet on whether you can repair the firewall within 10 minutes. Zhang Xiqing lifted his eyelids to glance at him, the corners of his lips curling into a cold smile. His gaze was icy. Lin Qingxing, as if oblivious, continued, if you win, I'll pretend I never came today, but if I win, you'll have to give Xiao Ba an explanation for your mother hiring a private detective and putting Xiao Chen in danger. Then, both of you, mother and son, stay away from Xiao Ba and her child. Do you dare to bet? He looked at Zhang Xiqing with a challenging stare. His eyes filled with certainty, as if he completely disbelieved Zhang Xiqing could win against him. A chilling aura emanated from Zhang Xiqing as he stared at him for a long moment before suddenly curling his thin lips into a faint smile. Fine. I'll take your bet. Lin Qingxing smiled and took out his phone. All right. I'll give you 10 minutes to prepare. That way, no one can say I ambushed you or took advantage. Lin Qingxing was brimming with confidence. Especially since he had already breached Ying Fan's firewall once before, he thought victory was practically guaranteed this time. As for Zhang Xiqing, he had never even heard of him being a hacker. He was still thinking that after winning, he would take Zhang Xiqing's guarantee letter to Xiao Ba to claim credit. But he never expected that 10 minutes later, after he launched an active attack on Ying Fan, Zhang Xiqing's side reacted quickly. They soon intercepted him and even traced back through the code directly. He immediately severed the connection and altered the program. But Zhang Xiqing's methods were unbelievably advanced, leaving him somewhat shocked. At first, he could still compete with Zhang Xiqing, but soon he was defeated, staring at the red "You lose" beneath the giant skull on his phone screen. He froze. He never expected to be defeated by Zhang Xiqing in the field he was most proud of. Moreover, the tactics Zhang Xiqing had just used against him seemed somewhat familiar. He froze for a long moment, then suddenly jerked his head up, staring at him in shock. You're Zed. Zhang Xiqing didn't speak, merely giving him a faint glance. Lin Qingxing's brow furrowed deeply, his tone certain. You must be Zed, the #1 on the Global Hacker Alliance leaderboard. I've seen you in action before. Instead of answering, Zhang Xiqing called Zhong Shuai in. You're actually Zed. Lin Qingxing was utterly shocked, as if he couldn't believe it. Then he saw Zhong Shuai place a sheet of A4 paper in front of him. Lin Qingxing froze, glanced down, and asked, what is this? Zhang Xiqing remained expressionless. You attacked Ying Fan's firewall twice in a row, since you're Nian Nian's fourth senior brother. I won't report you to the police, however, you'll need to settle the damages and compensation for the losses caused. Lin Qingxing scoffed. Loss? The first time, I didn't touch anything from your company at all. The second time, you stopped me. What loss could you possibly have? Besides, as the president of Ying Fan, do you really lack the little money I could take? You should be grateful you didn't take anything the first time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing here right now. Zhang Xiqing glanced at him coolly, his expression half smiling. Zhong Shuai added from the side, the company's firewall has automatic tracking, attack, and alarm functions, all personally built by our president, Lin Qingxing, a big CEO personally working on the firewall. That's really something. None of his fellow disciples are short of money. To be honest, he's really not afraid of compensation. Just a little money, that's all. It's just a bit regrettable that he couldn't help little 8. However, knowing that Zhang Xiqing is Zed left him with mixed feelings. After all, Zed was once the top hacker in his mind, his idol. Now that Zed has become Zhang Xiqing, he couldn't help but feel awkward. He absent-mindedly picked up the document on the table, flipped through it. and glanced at the compensation amount. At the sight of the number of zeros following the figure, his eyes instantly widened in shock. Is this extortion? I haven't touched a single thing from your company. And you're claiming a loss of 600 billion. 600 billion. Only Xiao Ba could come up with that amount right now. Zhang Xiqing was practically committing daylight robbery. Chapter 176. I won't let you get away with this. Zhang Xiqing put the watch he had just taken off back on his wrist. Because of the 20 minutes you wasted, I had to withdraw from a bidding for a 600 billion project. Lin Qingxing. I call bullshit. He suddenly jumped up, rushed straight to Zhang Xiqing's desk, and slammed his hand on it. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You're just trying to blackmail me and threaten Yen Yen. Let me tell you, you're dreaming. Zhang Xiqing certainly knew what he was thinking and let out a soft chuckle, his voice deep and magnetic. However, to Lin Qingxing's ears, it only sounded sinister. With a dark expression, he accidentally brushed against a small white jade ornament on Zhang Xiqing's desk without noticing. The ornament wobbled for a moment before plummeting to the ground. Zhang Xiqing's pupils contracted, unable to react in time. The white jade ornament fell to the ground. Although the floor was carpeted, it hit the edge of the table during the fall and quickly shattered into two pieces. Zhang Xiqing's expression instantly darkened, his eyes clouded with gloom, suddenly radiating a chilling coldness. Lin Qingxing frowned uncomfortably and glanced casually at the ornament. It's just ordinary white jade. Not worth much, and the craftsmanship is quite average. At most, it could fetch tens of thousands at the peak. He didn't take it seriously at all. Fourth young Master Zhang, trying to extort me won't work. I won't give you any excuse to pester Xiao Ba. 600 billion. Forget it. At worst, we'll go to court. No money. But I've got my life. If you've got the guts, send me to prison. His fifth junior sister is a top-tier global lawyer. Getting him out would be a piece of cake. So he wasn't the least bit afraid. Zhang Xiqing stood up, picked up the white jade ornament from the floor, his voice laced with suppressed anger. You can try. In the hotel, He Wenqing regained consciousness. There was no one else in the room, but the entire space was in disarray, and the faintly unpleasant smell in the air announced what had just happened. With every movement, she felt pain throughout her body. She couldn't bear the thought of Zhang Xiqing being firmly held in Jiyu Yunyan's grasp. And she resented Jiyu Yunyan for mercilessly sending her to prison. So the moment she received the news that Xiaochen was the child of Jiyu Yunyan and Zhang Xiqing, she immediately wanted to destroy her. Why should Jiyu Yunyan get the man she couldn't have? Yet, she never expected that she had been deceived all along. That person clearly said she would witness Jiyu Yunyan's downfall with her own eyes, but after she arrived, things turned out. She furiously smashed everything within reach onto the ground. All of this was clearly prepared for Jiyu Yunyan. Her face twisted in rage. Bitch. Damn it, just die. Her hair was disheveled, her face still bearing the mark of a slap, and her body covered in bruises. She picked up the phone by the door, gritting her teeth like a madwoman, and vowed, I won't let you get away with this. She sent all the photos she had previously received on her phone to several highly influential online influencers, even attaching hefty red envelopes to the messages. This is the current CEO of Zhengshan, a promiscuous and shameless woman who stole my man. I can't take it anymore. I want you to expose this bitch. The photos she sent included Jiyu Yunyan kissing Zhang Xiqing, being embraced by Lin Qingxing, dining with Xu Han, and even shots of her in a bar wearing a revealing outfit. Surrounded by a crowd of men while drinking, there was even one where she went to the hospital, clearly taken without her knowledge, with the faintly visible words obstetrics and gynecology in the background. Whether it was real or fake, the photos were all taken from very suggestive angles. The influencers replied to her almost immediately after receiving them. He Wenqing's face broke into a frenzied smile, but before a minute had passed, it froze stiff. Because her email inbox had received a message with an 8G attachment, her face instantly showed a terrified expression as she recalled everything that had just happened, nearly dropping her phone. No. Chapter 177. Let's go back up Nyan Nyan. With trembling hands, she still clicked the download button. An 8GB video, utterly appalling to watch. Several men's faces were pixelated in it, yet hers was clearly captured without any obscurity. A second email arrived, stating, if you report this to the police, these will be posted online. Moreover, You've offended someone you shouldn't have. Be careful with your words and actions, or face the consequences. He Wenqing's hand trembled. The email self-destructed after reading. Soon, there was no trace of those things left in her email. If it weren't for the 8 gigabytes of videos still stored on her phone, everything would have felt like a dream. GU Union. She clenched her teeth hard. A flash of madness flickering in her eyes. So what if she's the CEO of Zhongxin Investments? It's just a company that recently entered Huaju, with so many established families deeply rooted in Huaju. Does she, a mere upstart, really think she can dominate everything? Can't afford to endure it, huh? She already knew Xiao Chen's school and address, since GU Union had cut off her path to survival. She would drag his son to death with her. She quickly composed herself, called the front desk to prepare her clothes, and after changing, headed straight for Xiao Chen's school. She applied a flawless makeup look, prepared a resume, and knocked on the principal's office door. "Hello, I'm here to apply for the English teacher position." At this moment, all the photos she had sent to the influencer online had already been posted. They quickly exploded on the trending searches. Whether it was GU Union's identity as the CEO of Zhongxin, her status as Zhon Siqing's ex-wife, or her act of cheating on Zhon Siqing, all quickly captured the public's attention. GU Union had never agreed to acknowledge them, so the Liu family's enthusiasm was rather low. Everyone gathered together to discuss how to make up for the love that had been missing for over 20 years since GU Union got lost. The younger generation of the family stayed on the sidelines, bored and scrolling through their phones. Liu Chenyang, the second son of Liu Yanhong, the eldest of the Liu family, suddenly exclaimed, "Holy shit, GU Union, isn't this the child of our newly found aunt?" Grandma Liu turned to look at her grandson, slightly frowning. "What's the matter?" Liu Chenyang held up his phone. "Photos of my cousin are being spread all over the internet right now, and there's a wave of criticism online." Grandma Liu snatched the phone, put on her reading glasses, and upon seeing the content, was so furious she nearly fainted, her face filled with anger. "How outrageous! How dare they spread such nonsense about my granddaughter?" Seeing her reaction, the rest of the Liu family quickly took out their phones, and after reading, everyone's faces turned pale with anger. Liu Yangming slammed the table hard. How dare they lay a finger on someone from the Liu family? They must have a death wish. Liu Yanhong's face darkened, a flash of killing intent crossing his usually gentle expression. "It seems the Liu family has been too lenient for too long, making them think we've gone soft and stopped shedding blood." Old Master Liu pounded his cane fiercely, rising to his feet with a grim expression. "Eldest, go investigate for me. Find out who has the audacity to provoke us." Tang Yutong narrowed her eyes, a cold smile playing on her lips. "These people clearly think Nian Nian is just an orphan girl who's easy to bully. That's why they're acting so brazenly. We should have announced Nian Nian's true identity earlier, letting those who dare to make a move see if they have the life to spare for bullying her." "Aunt, my cousin still doesn't acknowledge us. She definitely won't agree to make this public." Liu Chenyang couldn't help but speak up from the side. Tang Yutong's face darkened instantly as she shot a glare at Liu Chenyang for undermining her. Liu Laojiu, who had remained silent until now. Liu Yangchuan said with a cold expression, "I think the trouble was probably brought by fourth young Master Zhon." Liu Yangming immediately jumped to his feet. "Second brother is right. Let's go back up Nian Nian." The gazes of everyone in the Liu family were fixed on Old Master Liu. Old Master Liu took a deep breath. "First, investigate thoroughly if both this incident and the earlier matter with Xiao Chen are because of Zhon Siqing. Then we'll go straight to the Zhon family and settle the score properly." "Good," Liu Yangming immediately responded. "It's long overdue that we settle accounts with them. Their family has gone too far." Chapter 178. "What have I done to make you all so angry?" Liu Yanhong made a phone call and gave the order. Within minutes, the truth was uncovered. Tang Yutong gritted her teeth, her voice filled with disgust. "It's her again. Both He Wenqing and Shen Shujing are connected to fourth young Master Zhon, aren't they? One was almost his fiancé, and the other is a blind date." When Yonglan frowned, that private investigator Zhao Yumai hired to investigate Xiao Chen should also be dealt with. If he hadn't leaked the information to Shen Shujing, none of this would have happened. Liu Yangming snorted coldly. "None of them are any good." Zhao Yumai investigated Xiao Chen and Nian Nian. Then Shun Shujing got the information from the private investigator and used He Wenqing as a pawn to do her dirty work. He Wenqing is both stupid and malicious, failing to ruin Nyan Nyan. She flew into a rage out of humiliation and began slandering Nyan Nyan online. Aren't all these women connected to Zhang Xiqing? Didn't someone just mention that He Wenqing went to Xiao Chen's school again to apply for a teaching position? Truly incorrigible. Old Master Lu suddenly stood up. Let's go find Zhang Xiqing and stand up for Nyan Nyan. As soon as the old man spoke, the entire Lu family followed suit. In the past, they were unaware of the grievances she endured, but now they couldn't just stand by and watch Jiyu Yunyan being bullied. Who dares to bully their little princess? They'll have their head twisted off. The Lu family arrived in full force, each driving a luxury car, lining up grandly below Ingfan's building, instantly drawing everyone's attention. With bodyguards trailing behind, their hostile intent was clear, putting Ingfan's security team on high alert. They couldn't help but wonder to themselves, what's going on today? Why are so many people coming to the company to cause trouble? When Zhong Shuai heard that the Lu family's patriarch had arrived, he was so shocked he nearly dropped his phone. He hurried to the conference room to inform Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing frowned, paused the meeting, and as soon as he stepped out, he saw the massive crowd of the Lu family. Zhang Xiqing's gaze turned slightly cold as he looked across and said indifferently, "The Lu family and the Zhang family have never had much interaction. I wonder what the meaning is behind Old Master Lu bringing so many people here today." Before Old Master Lu could speak, Old Madame Lu snorted coldly first, her face dark with anger as she scolded, "Of course, we're here to settle accounts with you." Zhang Xiqing raised an eyebrow slightly, a sharp glint flashing in his dark eyes. "Oh, I don't understand what Old Madame Lu means. What have I done to anger your Lu family so much?" "Of course, it's..." Old Madame Lu was about to say it was for bullying their granddaughter, but then she suddenly remembered that their granddaughter hadn't acknowledged them yet. She quickly changed her tone. "Of course, it's because we can't stand the shameless bullying by your Zhang family." Zhang Xiqing curled his lips into a faint arc, though his eyes held no trace of amusement. "I don't know which person Old Madame Lu is referring to as the one I've supposedly bullied. Who might that be?" His cold, sharp gaze swept over the members of the Lu family one by one. "Is that person here today?" Lu Yangming couldn't hold back his words. Seeing Zhang Xiqing's attitude, he couldn't help but flare up. "Of course, it's Nian Nian. You and your mother took advantage of her having no one to back her up, bullying her so brazenly. Let me tell you, Nian Nian saved my mother. She's part of our Lu family now." Tang Yutong stepped forward, her face full of accusation. "The woman you were engaged to before, and the ones you met through blind dates later, they bullied Nian Nian repeatedly, all because of you. Today, not only did you kidnap Xiao Chen and try to ruin Nian Nian, but you also spread vicious rumors online to slander her." Zhang Xiqing, if you're any kind of man, stop playing dead. Zhang Xiqing looked at the angry crowd from the Lu family, slightly narrowing his eyes, a hint of deeper meaning suddenly flashing in his gaze. He spoke calmly. "I've already dealt with the person, and all those who spread rumors have been caught. The trending topics online have been removed. Next, I'm going to deal with the He family. Do you want to join me?" Jiyu Union was just about to drive the babies out for a meal to calm their nerves, then she suddenly received a call from Zhang Xiqing. His voice on the other end was calm, but it seemed to carry a hint of grievance. "Nyan Nyan, the Lu family came to my company today to stand up for you." Jiyu Union, Chapter 179, Stopping at Nothing. Jiyu Union didn't hesitate and immediately hung up the phone. Xiaoqian glanced at her. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Jiyu Union frowned. "It's nothing." Her expression didn't look very pleasant. "Let's go, we'll have dinner." Xiaoqian nodded. "Then where should we go?" Jiyu Union touched his son's face. "What would you like to eat?" Although she was speaking to Xiao Chen like this, the frown between Jiyu Union's brows remained unrelaxed. Little Star saw it and couldn't help but ask, "Mommy, are you worried?" Jiyu Union glanced at her. "What am I worried about?" Little Star pursed her lips and smiled. "Worried that they might be bullied by that man." Of course, that man referred to Zhang Xiqing. Little Star didn't want to call someone who bullied her mommy daddy, so she always used this term instead. Jiyu Union was choked up and reached out to tap her nose lightly. "You seem to understand again." "I don't understand anything." "So mommy, are you really worried about them?" Little Star blinked, her big eyes glistening as she looked at Jiyu Union. Ji Yunyan's heart instantly softened. All right, you're right. I am indeed a little worried. Apart from her master and senior siblings, no one had ever stood up for her or helped her before. She never expected that even though she hadn't agreed to acknowledge the Lu family, they were willing to stand up for her, even at the risk of confronting Zhang Xiqing. The Zhang family, as the top wealthy family in Huaju, could still inflict significant damage even if the Lu family opposed them. She couldn't help but feel moved. Little Chen, with his small palm-sized face, looked serious and solemn beside her. If Mommy is worried, you should go check on them. We can eat anytime. I was knocked out at first, but when I woke up, I saw fourth Dad. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was kidnapped at all, so there's no need to calm my nerves. Xiao Tian also nodded beside her. Sister Xiaomai cooks really well too. Mommy, you should go. As for the Lu family, Ji Yunyan actually had no feelings toward them. After all, they hadn't seen each other for over 20 years, and to her, they were just a group of strangers. But if she were to search her heart, their protective actions today had truly touched her. For the first time, she understood what it felt like to be unconditionally protected by family. With a smile curling her lips and a sparkle in her eyes, she ruffled each of the three little ones' heads in turn. Since you say so, then Mommy will go, okay. The three children stood in a row and nodded in unison. Okay. Ji Yunyan kissed each of them on the forehead before handing them over to the family nanny, Xiaomai. She had originally intended to go directly to Yingfan, but after hesitating for a moment, she still called Lu Yangju. Are you still at Yingfan now? Lu Yangju paused for a moment, his magnetic voice coming through the phone. Did Zhang Xiqing call you? He chuckled lowly, the laughter carrying a hint of mockery. He really leaves no stone unturned. Ji Yunyan didn't catch it clearly. What? Lu Yangju said calmly. We're no longer at Yingfan now, we're preparing to go to the He family. My mother heard that He Wenqing kidnapped Xiaochen and plotted against you, and she's furious. If you want to deal with her personally, you can come over now. Ji Yunyan was somewhat surprised, not expecting the Lu family to go this far for her. Actually, they didn't need to go to such lengths. Some grudges. She still preferred to settle with her own hands. After hanging up the phone, she drove straight to the He family's residence. But as soon as she arrived at the entrance of the He family's villa, she heard the clamor inside. Her eyes flickered, thinking the Lu family had already arrived, and she hurriedly quickened her steps. Unexpectedly, the moment she stepped into the He family's courtyard, she saw Zhao Yumai arrogantly raising her hand and slapping He Wenqing across the face. You little bitch, you're asking for it. Zhao Yumei's slap was delivered without the slightest restraint, sending He Wenqing stumbling to the ground. Mrs. His eyes widened in shock as she quickly stepped forward to shield her daughter, shouting angrily, Zhao Yumai, what are you doing? How dare you hit someone? How dare I? Ha! Zhao Yumai let out a cold laugh and swung her handbag directly at He Wenqing. Ask your precious daughter what she's done. Chapter 180. Are you out of your mind wanting a grandson? Mrs. He was completely bewildered, though she didn't know what was happening. She couldn't just stand by and let Zhao Yumai publicly humiliate her daughter. She immediately grabbed Zhao Yumei's arm, trying to stop her. He Wenqing hid behind her mother in a panic. But as a result, Mrs. He, who was shielding her, ended up taking the brunt of Zhao Yumei's attack. The studs on the bag scraped across her face, causing her to scream in pain. She clutched her face as blood streamed down uncontrollably, her lips trembling from the agony. You're insane, absolutely insane. She cried. She loudly scolded the villa's security guards. Are you all dead? Don't you know to drag her away? He Wenqing was terrified and grabbed Mrs. His arm. Mom, are you okay? The security guard hesitated for a moment and was about to step forward when he was blocked by the bodyguards brought by Zhao Yumai. Zhao Yumai stood in front with her arms crossed, her expression fierce and utterly arrogant. I'm also a property owner in this villa area. Let's see who dares lay a finger on me. Although she had never come to live in the house here, that didn't mean she didn't own property in this place. The security guards immediately hesitated. The blood on Mrs. His face wouldn't stop at all. He Wenqing panicked a little, taking out tissues from her bag to try and press on the wound. Only to have Mrs. He push her hand away. She gritted her teeth, her face covered in blood, and glared at Zhao Yumai. Don't push it too far, Zhao Yumai sneered, looking at the disheveled Mrs. He, and slowly curled her lips. Stop shielding that little bitch. Or if you get hurt like just now, I won't take responsibility, mister. He has never stopped fooling around with mistresses over the years, has he? Those women are all waiting to take your place, if your face gets ruined. Do you really think he'd still want you, Mrs.? He froze instantly, her face turning pale as she glared viciously at Zhao Yumai. Don't you dare spout nonsense. You barged in here and started hitting people without a word, and now you're dragging my husband's name through the mud. I won't let this go. Just wait until I tell my husband to go to Yingfan and ask fourth young Master Zhon what he plans to do about a shrew like you causing trouble everywhere. You want to find my son? My son is the one who's coming for you. Mess with my grandson, and the He family will learn the hard way whether they have what it takes. I'll chop off your claws, Zhao Yumai retorted with disdain. Mrs. He looked shocked and suspicious, but she still managed to hold her ground without showing fear. What grandson? You only have one granddaughter. Do you think I'm easy to fool? A grandson? You're just making up lies to slander our Xiaoqing. Have you gone mad wishing for a grandson, Zhao Yumai? He wenching, don't hide behind your mother. Come out here. You had the nerve to kidnap Xiaochen, but now you don't dare admit it. You even applied to be a teacher at Xiaochen's school. Do you think I don't know what wicked schemes you're plotting? If I don't chop off your hands today, people might think the Zhon family is easy to bully tomorrow. He wenching hadn't expected Zhao Yumai to uncover everything so quickly and to be so unyielding, thinking of all the things she'd been through. Her eyes instantly reddened. Auntie, how could you accuse me like this? Before she could finish, Zhao Yumai spat fiercely. Don't you dare shed crocodile tears in front of me. I won't fall for your act, you vicious little wretch. You played the victim just like this last time when you tried to harm me. If I'd known you'd come out and target my precious grandson, I should have made sure you never got out in the first place. Zhao Yumai lost her patience, pointed at Mrs. He, and ordered the bodyguards, drag her away for me. He wenching panicked, seeing so many bodyguards and Zhao Yumai's fierce demeanor. She immediately let go of her mother and turned to run, but Zhao Yumai caught up in a few quick strides, grabbed her, and slapped her several times across the face. Xiao Chen is the treasure of our Zhon family. If you dare to lay a finger on him, you're messing with my lifeline. Today, not just you, but your entire He family won't get off easy. He wenching was instantly slapped so hard she saw stars. She never imagined that not only would she accomplish nothing today, but she would also be thoroughly beaten up by Zhao Yumai. Damn it all. Chapter 181. Did you tell her to do this? How did Zhao Yumai find out so quickly? Moreover, she was the wife of the Zhon family, the most prestigious household in Huaju, not some village shrew, yet she shamelessly resorted to a public brawl, completely disregarding her dignity. She gritted her teeth fiercely. That little bastard born to Gu Union, a destitute from the countryside, was being treated like some priceless treasure. How absurd. It was one thing for Zhon Siqing to dote on him, but even Zhao Yumai, who had always been at odds with Gu Union, unexpectedly took his side. He wenching couldn't accept it. A surge of bitter resentment flashed in her eyes, which she quickly suppressed. Tearfully, she cried out, Auntie, I didn't know he was your grandson. Please stop hitting me. I'll apologize. I wanted to marry the fourth young master. If I had known earlier, I would have treated him well. How could I have possibly arranged his kidnapping? Don't you dare spout nonsense at me. You don't know. Zhao Yumai was furious at the sight of her. Remembering how she had pushed her last time, she immediately raised her hand and slapped her several times, hitting He wenching so hard that blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. He wenching was pinned down by the bodyguard, unable to break free, and could only endure the humiliation of being beaten by Zhao Yumai. Suddenly, she caught sight of a car stopping not far away in her peripheral vision, and her eyes lit up instantly. She screamed, Dad, help, help. My mom and I are being bullied at home. If you come back any later, we'll be beaten to death. As soon as He Qinghui got out of the car, he heard his daughter's shrill cries, and his entire face immediately darkened with a frown. He quickly walked over and saw his wife and daughter being restrained by the bodyguards. His face instantly darkened like the bottom of a pot. He turned to look at Zhao Yumai, a calculating glint flashing across his smooth face. Madame Zhon, isn't this going too far? Even if the Zhon family is powerful and influential, you can't bully people like this. Although the He family may not compare to the Zhon family, we are still a prominent family in the entire Huaju. Today, you've come to our doorstep, beating my wife and daughter like this. If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, I won't let this matter rest." They said the same thing. Zhao Yumai sneered coldly. "If you want an explanation, then Mr. He should first give our Zhon family an explanation. Your daughter had my grandson kidnapped and even planned to kill him. How do you intend to explain that to me?" He Qinghui was immediately stunned and turned to look at He Wenqing. "Is this true?" He Wenqing's eyes flickered with a guilty conscience, not daring to look at He Wenhui. I didn't. I just wanted to scare Jiyu Union a little. After how she treated me before, I was just too angry. I didn't mean to do anything to that child, and I didn't even know it was Zhon Xiqing's child." Jiyu Union stepped forward, her expression cold. "Then tell me, how exactly did I treat you before?" Zhao Yumai hadn't expected her to show up, and her face immediately showed a strange expression, remembering what the private investigator had uncovered, that Xiao Chen was Jiyu Union's child. She turned her face away, refusing to look at her. Yet after waiting for a long time without Jiyu Union glancing her way, she grew upset again and glared at Jiyu Union fiercely. Jiyu Union pretended not to notice, turning a cold gaze toward He Wenqing. "Do you really think I have no evidence of the things you've done?" At the mention of the word evidence, He Wenqing's expression reflexively changed. Her mind instantly flashed to the 8 gigabytes of videos in her email, and she immediately panicked. "It was you made him do it." Her eyes widened as she lunged at Jiyu Union, her face twisted with fury. As if she wanted to tear Jiyu Union's face apart, Jiyu Union narrowed her eyes slightly and kicked her away with one swift motion. He Qinghui's expression darkened with embarrassment. He's still standing right here, yet Jiyu Union dares to lay hands on his daughter, completely disregarding his presence. He didn't dare to truly confront Zhao Yumai, given that the Zhon family stood behind her. But when it came to Jiyu Union, he had no such reservations. Although Jiyu Union is the president of Zhongshan, he truly didn't take her seriously. Chapter 182. Dad, save me. Zhongshan may be formidable, but it's just one company after all. In the circles of Huaju, without family backing, Jiyu Union is still too green, especially since he remembered that Zhao Yumai didn't like Jiyu Union, and the Zhon family wouldn't stand behind her either. His eyes immediately gleamed with greed, eager to tear a piece of flesh from Jiyu Union. His face darkened as he deliberately used his presence to intimidate Jiyu Union. His voice turning much colder as he threatened, "President Jiyu, I know you're young and impulsive, but young people should think twice before acting. Otherwise, offending too many people will make your path very difficult. Is Mr. He threatening me?" Jiyu Union laughed, her face full of disdain, her crimson lips curling into a mocking arc. "I wonder how Mr. He plans to make my life difficult. Your daughter had my son drugged, then used him to lure me to a hotel, arranged people to deal with me, and even posted those photos online to ruin my reputation. What is there for me to think twice about? That I didn't drag your entire He family into this mess. No wonder He Wenqing is so foolish. It runs in the family. Should I call you stupid or just reckless? Offending both me and Zhon Xiqing in succession. Does the He family want to be erased from the ranks of Hua Capital's elite families?" He Qinghui listened to her words with an indifferent expression, convinced she was merely bluffing. If she truly had the influence to rally the Zhon family to her side, she wouldn't be standing here talking to him today. But before he could say anything, as if echoing Jiyu Union's words, He Qinghui's phone suddenly rang. He froze for a moment before answering the call, and within seconds, his eyes suddenly turned red. He glared at Jiyu Union and roared, "What did you do? Why is the Lu family also targeting the He family?" Jiyu Union's eyes flickered slightly, warmth flooding her heart. As she watched He Qinghui's panicked expression, she instinctively blurted out the answer, "Of course, it's because I'm from the Lu family." After saying those words, she felt an overwhelming sense of relief. It felt like I had finally found my home, with no more sense of drifting. Yet everyone present burst into laughter upon hearing her words. "Mrs. He was the first to scoff in disbelief. Why don't you just say you can fly to the sky, even making up lies? You can't come up with something believable." She might as well have claimed to be a member of the Zhon family, at least as the ex-wife of the fourth young master Zhon and the mother of the Zhon family's eldest grandson. These words still carry some credibility. He Qinghui, on the other hand, laughed without any regard for courtesy. "Ha ha, a member of the Lu family, President Gu, what kind of dream are you having? Don't try to fool me with such nonsense. He Qinghui, wasn't raised to be scared so easily. You claim to be from the Lu family. Does the Lu family even know about this? His words had barely fallen when an excited voice suddenly came from outside the crowd. Old man, what did I just hear? Nyan Nyan, has she acknowledged us? Yes. Just now Nyan Nyan said she's from the Lu family. Old Mr. Lu's eyes turned slightly red, his back pain instantly vanished, and his legs regained strength. He quickly led old Mrs. Lu past the bodyguards to stand beside Jiu Union, shielding her protectively. Qinghui, do you have a problem with our granddaughter? Qinghui's face immediately changed, his eyes widening in shock as all color drained from his face. Lu, old Lu, what did you say? Lu Yangming, who was a step too late, stepped forward and glared coldly at Qinghui with the standard Lu family eyes. What my father just said, of course. Is that Nyan Nyan is our Lu family's long-lost granddaughter from 20 years ago. How dare your He family have any objections? Old Madam Lu, her eyes red, grabbed Jiu Yunyan's wrist. Our Lu family's precious pearl, finally found after so long, will absolutely not allow outsiders to bully her. Tang Yutong, who had been eager for action, looked at He Wenqing's swollen face and sneered. She grabbed He Wenqing's hair and yanked her out from behind He Qinghui. Then she slapped her hard across the face. I'm going to whip you today for sure. How dare you bully Yanhong's niece? Who gave you the nerve? He Wenqing, already terrified of Zhao Yuemei's beatings, immediately broke free from Tang Yutong's grip and ran to He Qinghui's side, clutching his sleeve and screaming, Dad, Dad, save me. Quick. Chapter 183, absolutely won't agree to you being with Sai Chen. He Qinghui kicked her away. Save you, you wretched creature, why don't you just die? You've offended both the Zhon and Lu families. Don't call me Dad. He Qinghui was now filled with such regret that he wished he could just bundle up He Wenqing and the sobbing Mrs. He beside her and toss them to the Lu and Zhon families to vent their anger. He Wenqing was completely stunned by the kick. She lay on the ground for a long time before managing to get up, her face twisted as she glared at Jiu Union. This can't be. How is this possible? How could you possibly be a child of the Lu family? Uncle Lu and Auntie have only been married for a little over a decade. They grew up together and are deeply in love. How could they have a daughter as old as you? As if suddenly realizing something, she jerked her head up to look at Wen Yonglan. Auntie Wen, you and Uncle Lu have such a good relationship. Are you really going to accept a bastard child into your family? Shut your mouth. Hearing this, Wen Yonglan, who was always gentle, turned livid. Nian Nian is the daughter of Yanhong's elder sister. She's no bastard. After all this, you still haven't learned your lesson and dare to slander her. Lu Yanhong's eyes flickered slightly, his warm smile unchanged, but the look in his eyes turned cold. This year, the tax authorities notified your He family to pay back the evaded taxes, and you still haven't done so, have you? You can wait for the seizure. He Qinghui's brow twitched violently. A bad premonition rising in his heart, he hurriedly pleaded, I'll pay. I'll have someone pay it back immediately. Please, it's all my fault for not managing the family properly. I'll apologize to Miss Jiu right now. Don't seize the company. Old Madam Lu snorted coldly. Too late, Yanhong. These parasites of the country. Have someone investigate them thoroughly. No, He Qinghui knew that if the company were really seized, the He family would be truly finished. At this moment, he wished he could beat He Wenqing to death. He couldn't afford to worry about her now. Seeing the Lu family about to leave, he hurriedly chased after them, hoping to plead for mercy. But how could the Lu family possibly agree? Left with no choice, he turned his attention to Jiu Union. He grabbed He Wenqing and Mrs. He, dragging them before Jiu Union and forcing them to their knees with a kick. President Jiu, if you're angry, feel free to hit them. They've done wrong and should pay the price. I only beg you to show mercy. Please don't shut down the He Corporation. I'll have the finance department immediately pay back all the owed taxes. Your company's issues go far beyond just tax problems. Jiu Union looked at him coolly, her eyes filled with frost. If I recall correctly, the abandoned construction projects and accident-prone buildings were also under your He family's real estate company, weren't they? Pleading with me is useless. When you yourself are not upright, I won't help you. He Qinghui collapsed to the ground in utter dejection, ignoring his disheveled state. Jiu Union turned and walked away. As she passed by Zhao Yumai, who had remained silent and expressionless since the Lu family's arrival, Zhao gave her an unusually cold, penetrating look. Staring at Jiu Yunyan's face, Zhao Yumai felt a sudden daze, as if she were seeing the youthful Lu Zhen from years ago. No wonder she was so resistant when her son mentioned marrying Jiu Yunyan back then. So Jiu Yunyan was actually Lu Zhen's child. How had she never realized that Lu Zhen had left a child in this world? If this child were, her expression suddenly changed, and she tightly gripped Jiu Yunyan's wrist. Don't think just because you've become part of the Lu family, I'll let you in. I will never agree to you being with Zhang Xiqing. Tang Yutong happened to overhear this and immediately let out a mocking "Oh please, what makes you think your Zhang family is such a treasure that everyone clings to? Zhao Yumai, we haven't even settled the score for how you bullied Nyan Nyan before." Facing the collective gaze of the Lu family, Zhao Yumai's face paled slightly. "Don't talk nonsense, I never bullied her," Lu Yangqin spoke coldly, "whether you bullied her or not. You know the truth in your heart. With a mother like you, our Nyan Nyan will never step into your Zhang family's door. Tell your son to stay away from my niece from now on." The younger members of the Lu family also spoke up, especially the eldest, Lu Chenyang and Lu Chumo, who clenched their fists and issued a stern warning. "If he dares to harass our cousin again, don't blame us for smashing his head in." Jiu Yunyan curled her lips. Having family felt pretty good. The He family rapidly declined overnight, with their company being sealed off the very next morning. Both the Zhang and Lu families, two of the top-tier elite families, made it clear that they wanted the He family to disappear from Huaju. The circle was in shock, and those well-informed knew that the He family had offended Jiu Yunyan, which was why the Zhang and Lu families showed no mercy, sweeping them away like autumn wind clearing fallen leaves. For a time, all sorts of wild rumors about Jiu Yunyan were rampant. She became the first woman in all of Huaju whom no one dared to provoke or even speak of. Chapter 184, The Lost Child of the Lu Family. As the unspeakable one, everyone thought she would soon make a high-profile appearance before the public. However, after waiting for a long time, no one saw the Lu family hosting a banquet to introduce Jiu Yunyan, nor did they hear about Zhang Xiqing remarrying her. People couldn't help but start to wonder if all the previous rumors about her were just false. But then, it was suddenly reported that the market value of Zhongshan Investment had doubled, and her personal net worth had already placed her among the top 10 on the city's rich list. Everyone couldn't help feeling a pang of jealousy in their hearts. But what if she made it to the top 10 of the global rich list? She still can't get a man, kicked out by fourth young master Zhang 5 years ago. What a joke. They say she's the child the Lu family lost over 20 years ago, but it doesn't seem like they care much about her, bringing her home so quietly. Could she be an illegitimate daughter? They say she's Lu Zhen's child, but Lu Zhen was never married back then. Maybe the Lu family is ashamed of her and that's why they won't introduce her properly. TSK, isn't it obvious? Her company's doing so well just because she's a woman, taking advantage of her gender. If we were women too, we might have climbed even faster than her. Lu Yangju, who had taken time out to attend a business cocktail party, was resting in a corner when he overheard a few men nearby spouting nonsense about Jiu Yunyan. His expression instantly darkened. Noticing this, his assistant quickly asked, "President?" Holding his wine glass, his eyes icy cold, he swirled the red wine gently, watching it cling to the sides like blood. In one gulp, he finished the drink and placed the empty glass on the balcony. "Go find out who those people outside are." Lu Yenzhou's voice, though low, wasn't deliberately hushed. It was loud enough for those gossiping about Jiu Yunyan outside to hear clearly. They had just been casually talking trash, but upon hearing that familiar voice, their faces instantly turned pale. The alcohol they just consumed seemed to sober up immediately as they quickly turned to flee, yet this corner was extremely quiet, with no one else around. They had barely taken 2 clever steps when they happened to bump into Lu Yangju leaning against the wall. A faint smile still lingered at the corners of his lips, but his eyes were filled with coldness. He spoke lightly. "Why are you all leaving? I haven't had my fill of listening yet. I wasn't aware that just because Nyan Nyan has been a bit busy lately and temporarily has no time for these time-consuming banquets, it would give you all such wild imaginations." The faces of those men turned sheepish one by one. They had no idea how much he had overheard, but being caught red-handed while gossiping behind someone's back made them all feel uneasy. President Liu, we didn't expect you to be here. We've all had too much to drink and our mouths ran wild. Please just treat it as nonsense. We know we were wrong, and we sincerely apologize to you. If I weren't here, how could I have heard such words from you? Truly remarkable. Those who know you would recognize you as industry insiders, while those who don't might mistake you for village gossips. One of them, who had recently been striving to secure investment from the Liu Group, couldn't sit still any longer. He immediately slapped himself hard across the face, exclaiming, "I'm sorry. So sorry, President Liu. I had a bit too much to drink and started spouting nonsense. I shouldn't have talked recklessly." Liu Yangju watched him slap himself with leisurely amusement, as if enjoying a show, his eyes filled with mockery. After a while, he finally spoke indifferently, "There's no need to be so nervous, nor to apologize." A glimmer of hope flashed in the man's eyes. Thinking the matter was already over, that Liu Yangju hadn't taken it to heart and hadn't regarded his offense against GU Union as anything serious, the next second, Liu Yenzhou's cold voice rang out. "The person you're referring to isn't me, so apologizing to me is pointless. However, the Liu family's investment in you will indeed be put on hold. The Liu family doesn't collaborate with those lacking moral integrity." Chapter 185, Daring to Interfere with My Affairs. The man's expression changed drastically. Seeing Liu Yangju about to leave, he hurriedly stepped forward to grab his arm. Liu Yangju abruptly raised his hand, deftly avoiding the man's grasp. There was a hint of displeasure in his eyes, and the assistant immediately stepped forward to block the person. "Sorry, but I must ask you to leave now. If you continue to make noise here and harass our CEO, I will have to call security." Liu Yangju curled his lips slightly and walked away coldly, his eyes suppressing anger and a touch of irritation. Although GU Union had acknowledged the Liu family, she consistently refused to hold a high-profile banquet to introduce her to everyone. The family had been gloomy over this matter recently, each beginning to reflect on whether they had done something wrong that made GU Union so resistant to being associated with the Liu family. Yet no matter how much everyone thought about it, they couldn't come up with anything, and in the end, they all blamed him for offending GU Union when he first met her. Surely, he must have bullied GU Union without the others knowing. Liu Yangju was truly at a loss for words. How could he, as her uncle, possibly bully her? Back when they were collaborating, he was practically ready to hand over the profits to her on a silver platter. If there's any real reason to have offended her, the only possibility would be because of Yongjing. But between him and Yongjing, Liu Yangju raised his hand to rub his temples. When he looked up again, he saw Yongjing in a snow-white backless gown, lazily leaning against the counter with a glass of champagne in her hand, chatting intermittently with a man. He recognized that man, Shui Yang, the son of Jingyang Real Estate's CEO Shui Debiao. Just like his father, he exuded the air of a nouveau riche. Though he looked presentable, he was known for his wild private life. His reputation is also terrible. And he can't understand why Yongjing would be so foolish as to get involved with that person, especially when he personally witnessed Shui Yang exchanging meaningful glances with a waiter not far away. Seeing Yongjing about to raise the drink delivered by that waiter to her lips, he frowned and could no longer hold back, striding over and grabbing her wrist. Shui Yang had thought Yongjing was about to fall into the trap, but suddenly being interrupted, he immediately lost his temper. "What the hell are you?" Shui Yang was about to curse, but when he looked up and saw it was Liu Yangju, he immediately swallowed the rest of his words. The current head of the Liu family, Fourth Master Liu, was not someone he could afford to provoke. A trace of regret flashed across his face. He never expected that Liu Yangju, the unattainable flower on the high peak, would also take a liking to Yongjing. Didn't he always prefer the pure and innocent type? Why would he suddenly be interested in Yongjing, who was known for her striking beauty? Holding on to a sliver of hope, he glanced at Liu Yangju with a fawning look. "Fourth Master Liu, do you know Miss Yang?" Before Liu Yangju could speak, Yongjing broke free from his grasp first, downed the glass of wine in one gulp, and then said coldly, "I don't know you." Liu Yangju couldn't stop her in time, a flash of anger crossing his eyes. "Drinking anything? Didn't I tell you not to drink before?" Yongjing curled her lips, turning away carelessly. Her provocative gaze slowly traveled upward from his chest, her eyes as if tangible, gliding over his collarbone, sweeping past his Adam's apple, and finally settling on his eyes. Fourth Master Lu has quite the refined taste. Managing your own company isn't enough. Now you're even trying to manage me. I'm not one of your employees. You have no right to control me. Her voice carried a hint of coquettishness within its languid tone, silently plucking at the heartstrings of men beside her. Shui Yang's gaze was practically glued to her, his throat bobbing repeatedly as he swallowed hard. Lu Yenzhou's expression darkened abruptly, and without another word, he grabbed her wrist. Whether I have the right or not isn't for you to decide. Yongjing curled her lips into a cold, indifferent smile, yet she didn't resist his pull, allowing herself to be led away from the venue by his forceful tug. As soon as I stepped outside, a gust of wind blew over, warm and thick with the summer heat, stirring an inexplicable restlessness in my heart. Chapter 186. I'll just treat it as being bitten by a dog. Lu Yangju loosened his tie with one hand. The earlier anger had already dissipated. I'll have someone take you back. What you drank earlier was likely tampered with. You should go to the hospital to get checked. Yongjing stood with her arms crossed, watching him, then suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Her fair fingers, painted with bright red nail polish, tapped lightly on his chest. And what if I don't? Lu Yangju gripped her fingers tightly, his strength so great it seemed he could crush them. Narrowing his eyes slightly, he warned, Yongjing, don't provoke me. Under the dim yellow glow of the nightlights, Yongjing's crimson lips looked especially alluring. She tilted her chin up slightly, her expression haughty and cold. What if I do provoke you, Lu Yangju? We agreed. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. That night, I'll just consider it a dog bite. Don't take it seriously. Bitten by a dog. Lu Yangju was almost laughing in anger. Yongjing, can't you stop being so childish? Who's the childish one here? Love between men and women is human nature. Since we're over, do you expect me not to move on to someone else? Lu Yangju, don't flatter yourself. I'm not that devoted. As Yongjing spoke, her eyes gleamed coldly, her tone icy and unyielding. Lu Yenzhou's temples throbbed with fury. He laughed bitterly in his rage. Fine, it was none of my business. Miss Yang, suit yourself. Yongjing cast him a calm glance, the corner of her lips curling slightly, without another word. She turned and walked away. The 15-centimeter high heels elongated her legs to an extreme degree, while the figure-hugging dress wrapped around her curvaceous body. With each swaying step, she exuded a charm that was alluring yet not vulgar. Like a bewitching enchantress, making it impossible for anyone to look away. Suddenly, her steps faltered, as if the effects of a drug had kicked in, and she steadied herself by leaning against a nearby stone pillar. She paused for a moment, neither turning back nor showing any intention to leave. After regaining her composure, she surprisingly began walking back into the banquet hall. Lu Yangju clenched his teeth hard and suddenly strode forward to catch up with her. With one arm scooping under her knees, he lifted her off the ground in one swift motion. Yongjing subtly curled her lips, then lifted her gaze, her expression once again turning cold and aloof. Neither of them spoke. Lu Yangju directly found his car and shoved her into the back seat. Just as he was about to close the door and head to the driver's side, Yongjing grabbed his tie and yanked him into the car. Standing at the entrance, Jiyu Yunyan's eyes widened in shock. Even forgetting about the annoying Zhang Xiqing beside her, she wore an incredulous expression. If I didn't see wrong just now, that was my senior sister, wasn't it? Without waiting for Zhang Xiqing to respond, she chuckled and added, who would have thought someone like Lu Yangju could make such an expression? She was standing right here just now and happened to witness the whole thing. The tension between her senior sister and Lu Yangju was like a fully drawn bow. An electrifying push and pull that even made her blush a little. Her senior sister said they had a falling out, but from what she saw, it didn't seem that way at all, especially Lu Yangju. The way he looked at her senior sister with such restrained intensity just now, as if he could devour her on the spot. TSK. Jiyu Yunyan smiled at the corner of her mouth, feeling quite pleased. Thinking about her senior sister becoming her aunt-in-law, it didn't seem too bad after all. Zhang Xiqing stood nearby. Noticing Jiyu Yunyan's attention was still fixed on the couple who had already left, he narrowed his eyes slightly and spoke in a deep voice. Envious, I can do that too. Jiyu Yunyan frowned, looking utterly confused. What? As soon as she finished asking, she realized what Zhang Xiqing was referring to, and her face immediately darkened. Are you crazy? Who's envious? With that, she turned and walked back into the banquet hall. The attendees were all prominent figures from Huaju. Since she had just made it into the top 10 of the global rich list, regardless of what was said behind her back, many openly expressed interest in collaboration. Testing the waters, Chapter 187, 187, this has nothing to do with you, after all. Regardless of Ji Yunyan's identity, the money in her hands is real. Women are short-sighted with their long hair. If we can trick her into agreeing to cooperate, we might be able to squeeze a lot of money out of her. Each of them secretly plotted to swindle Ji Yunyan's money, while she listened absent-mindedly, looking for any project that might catch her interest. Zhang Xiqing followed closely behind her. Though he remained silent, his dark, stern expression kept everyone in line. Many couldn't help but click their tongues in surprise, seeing him like this. Could it be that the two of them are really about to tie the knot, given Ji Yunyan's status? If she were to marry Zhang Xiqing, then their attitude toward her would need to be carefully reconsidered. Ji Yunyan intended to go to the restroom midway, but as she passed through a long corridor, she suddenly heard her own name. Don't worry, Lu Yangju might just be saying it. If he really cared about Ji Yunyan that much, he wouldn't have been so indifferent. He probably only said those words because he overheard and felt obliged to respond. Who knows, he might forget about it once he gets back. President Liu is right. President Zhong, there's no need for you to worry so much. Besides, aren't we speaking the truth? Ji Yunyan was recognized by the Liu family, yet they didn't even bother to hold half a banquet to announce it. Clearly, they don't value her, and if fourth young Master Zhong truly wanted to marry her, wouldn't there be some reaction? Back then, she was kicked out by the Zhong family, and who knows what she's been up to these 5 years abroad. A woman with no power or influence suddenly builds such a massive fortune. Who would believe there's nothing shady going on? After saying this, the man let out a sleazy laugh, and the other two men, seemingly having thought of something similar, joined in the laughter. The laughter was filled with malice. Ji Yunyan had never been one to seek trouble, but if someone was slapping her right in the face, she wasn't about to let it slide without a response. She slowly curled her lips into a smile, about to say something, when suddenly a crisp voice rang out. Is it proper for 3 grown men to gossip behind someone's back? You're all CEOs of major companies. Is it so hard to admit that someone else is outstanding? Must you slander Miss Ji like this and belittle her just to soothe your own resentment and make yourselves feel less incompetent? Hearing this, the 3 men's expressions darkened instantly. They looked at the audacious young man before them and sneered coldly, threatening. You've got quite the nerve, kid. You're here at this cocktail party to secure investments, aren't you? Cross us, and believe us, with just a word from us, you won't get a single cent. If all investors are as short-sighted and envious as you, I'd rather not have your money. With your meddling, my project would end up unrecognizable. I'd sooner let it fail than collaborate with people like you. Besides, I trust in my abilities. Someone with vision will recognize its worth. Ji Yunyan raised her hand and clapped. The corridor was extremely empty, and the crisp sound of her clapping was instantly amplified countless times. Mr. Liu, who had just been threatening the young man with a dark expression, suddenly turned his head and snarled, "Who's there? Come out, don't hide like a coward." Ji Yunyan slowly stepped forward, a playful smile on her face. "I'm out. I wasn't planning to hide in the first place. What a surprise. Just going to the restroom and overhearing such an interesting conversation along the way." The expressions on the 3 men's faces could no longer be described as merely unpleasant. They couldn't help but curse their luck inwardly. What kind of day was this? How could they have the misfortune of badmouthing someone twice and running into the very person both times? In contrast, the young man who had previously spoken up for Ji Yunyan showed no change in his expression. He glanced at Ji Yunyan and spoke politely and gently. "This matter has nothing to do with you. It's best not to get involved, lest you face their retaliation." Chapter 188. Don't push things to the extreme. Ji Yunyan smiled, a glimmer of admiration flashing in her eyes. The 3 people who had just been badmouthing Ji Yunyan were initially a bit worried. But after scanning behind her and seeing neither Zhang Xiqing nor Lu Yangju, they immediately relaxed. The leader, President Liu, patted his protruding beer belly and casually said with a smile, "So it's President Ji. We didn't know you were here today. The 3 of us were just praising how young and accomplished you are." Far surpassing us old-timers, truly impressive. That's not what I heard you say earlier, Gu Union replied with a smile, though her eyes carried a faint chill. Aren't you all a bit too old to be saying things you won't own up to, Mr. Zhong, who had previously been bluntly refused funding by Liu Yangju, immediately looked displeased. What do you mean by this, President Gu? Exactly what it sounds like, if you can't even understand that. Perhaps it's time to let someone more capable take over your position, Gu Union sneered, casting a cold glance at them. She then turned to the young man from earlier. You're here to seek investment, right? Did you bring your project proposal? The young man, still processing Gu Union's identity, was momentarily stunned by her words, but soon, a spark of excitement flashed in his eyes. As if finding it hard to believe, he pursed his lips tightly, hesitating slightly. Oh really? Gu Union took the project proposal he handed over, skimmed through it briefly. It was indeed quite interesting. This is my secretary's business card. Bring the project proposal to Junction tomorrow. The young man instantly grasped the implication of her words, his face immediately showing an expression of disbelief. The funding required for this project might be a teeny-tiny bit substantial. The invested capital definitely won't be recouped in the short term, but I believe that once successful, the return rate could reach as high as 170%. Gu Union closed the project proposal and shoved it back into his hands. Funding isn't an issue, when you know who I am. You shouldn't be saying such things. It was only then that the young man realized the woman before him, beautiful as a delicate flower, was the one who had recently made it into the top 10 of the global rich list. He didn't know what she lacked, but he knew for sure she wasn't short of money. Clutching the project proposal, visibly moved, he stammered, Gu, President Gu, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Yi Xinghua. Boss Zhong beside them was green with envy. He never expected that while he had been groveling like a grandson, begging left and right for investments to no avail, this young man had simply flattered Gu Union a few times and effortlessly secured her investment. Stepping over them in the process, he immediately cursed inwardly. What was a woman doing out here in the first place, treating a company like a game, throwing money around so recklessly? If she had too much money to care, she could have given it to him instead. Although Mr. Zhong looked down on Gu Union in his heart, he immediately put on a fawning smile and approached. President Gu, I happen to have a project in hand. Would you be interested? Gu Union glanced at him indifferently, her red lips curling slightly. Of course, Mr. Zhong's eyes instantly lit up with wild joy, and the prepared flattery almost spilled out instinctively, only to hear Gu Union slowly utter the remaining 4 words. Gu Union, not interested, Mr. Zhong. His face twisted with anger, the veins on his hand bulging as he clenched it at his side. You, Gu Uni raised an eyebrow. What, if I don't invest, are you going to resort to violence? But, she cast a disdainful glance at his out-of-shape physique and sneered, even like this, you're no match for me. I advise you not to humiliate yourself. Mr. Liu, standing nearby, couldn't stand it any longer. President Gu, we all cross paths frequently, don't be so ruthless. Who knows when you might need someone's help in the future? Can you really guarantee you'll never need assistance from others? If she ever needs help, it certainly won't be from you. In fact, from now on, I'll make sure she never has to see any of you in this circle again. A deep, magnetic voice suddenly rang out from the end of the hallway. It was Zhang Xiqing. Everyone turned to see Zhang Xiqing walking over with a cold expression. He stood directly beside Gu Union, his dark eyes sweeping dismissively over the 3 individuals. You might as well start preparing for bankruptcy. The 3 of them paled instantly, suddenly recalling what had happened to the He family after they offended Gu Union not long ago. Chapter 189, You're willing to give up. No matter how desperately the 3 of them pleaded, the outcome wouldn't change. To prevent them from harassing Gu Union, Zhang Xiqing directly called security to escort them out. Yi Xinghua stood nearby, breathing rapidly as he watched Zhang Xiqing and Gu Union. He never expected to get this close to the 2 legendary figures today. It was only then that Zhang Xiqing noticed Yi Xinghua standing stiffly like a wooden post beside them. His expression turned slightly cold, displeased by the man's lack of awareness in playing the third wheel. Still not leaving, Yi Xinghua had originally intended to greet him, but the moment he saw Zhang's dark expression, he didn't dare to speak. President Jean. I'm sorry, GU Union suddenly interrupted him. Weren't you going to present your project to me? If you leave now, do you no longer want the investment? Yi Xinghua was taken aback, a flicker of confusion flashing in his eyes. Hadn't she just agreed to let him bring the project proposal to Junction tomorrow? Why was she suddenly asking him to explain the project concept now? Besides, hadn't he just gone over it a moment ago? But the investor is the boss. Forget about GU Union just asking him to explain the project concept. Even if she demanded he present the entire project right now, he could do it. Just as his enthusiasm was peaking, he suddenly felt Zhang Xiqing's intense gaze land squarely on him. Yi Xinghua instantly froze. As if doused with a bucket of cold water, he looked blankly at GU Union, then at Zhang Xiqing, belatedly realizing, were these two using him as a pawn in their argument? Yi Xinghua immediately felt torn. Between these two, he couldn't afford to offend either. Now he couldn't leave, yet staying wasn't an option either. His face instantly twisted into a pained expression. Zhang Xiqing tugged at his tie with one hand and said coldly, "You can leave now." Yi Xinghua hesitated, casting a conflicted glance at GU Union. GU Union didn't look at him. Instead, he crossed his arms with an icy expression, his face clearly conveying that if he dared to leave, the investment deal would be off. A bitter taste instantly filled his mouth. Had the hard-won investment fallen through again? But if he stayed, he didn't dare remain either. After all, if he offended Zhang Xiqing, even with GU Union's backing, the fourth young master of the Zhang family had countless ways to render his efforts futile in Huaju. He sighed, bowing his head slightly toward GU Union as he spoke apologetically. "President GU, my apologies. I won't disturb your conversation with President Zhang any further. I just realized our project proposal needs more thorough preparation. If you're still interested, I'll bring my team and the updated documents to your company tomorrow." GU Union twitched the corner of her mouth. Although she had already anticipated this outcome, she still felt displeased in her heart. "Think carefully. If you leave today, I might not necessarily invest in you anymore." Yi Xinghua's expression stiffened, and his entire demeanor sank. Zhang Xiqing spoke calmly from the side. "However much is missing, Yingfan will cover it for you." GU Union let out a cold laugh. "I never expected Yingfan to be in the charity business." Zhang Xiqing curled his lips, his expression relatively calm, though his eyes were deep and unfathomable. "I trust Nianyan's judgment." GU Union immediately rolled her eyes at him, tilting her chin up as she looked at Yi Xinghua. "I understand your concerns. If you choose to stay today, not only will I invest in you, but I can also bring the Lu family on board. But if you leave and accept Yingfan's offer," GU Union sneered. Yi Xinghua pursed his lips, a bitter smile appearing on his face. "President GU, even if you reject me, I actually had no intention of accepting Yingfan Investment's offer." GU Union immediately showed an interested expression, raising an eyebrow slightly. "Oh, isn't your project in urgent need of funding? With the Zhang family backing you, it might even be better than partnering with Junction. Are you really willing to give that up?" Yi Xinghua sighed and spoke honestly. "There are things one should and shouldn't do. It was President GU who first extended an olive branch to me. I know very well that the reason President Zhang is willing to invest now is entirely because of you. Even if I did accept Yingfan's investment, I probably wouldn't receive much attention. This project is my life's work. If it can't be completed successfully, I'd rather not start it at all." Chapter 190. No more smiling at other men. GU Union suddenly burst into laughter, stroking her chin with a pleased expression. It was clear that Yi Xinghua's words had delighted her. "Forget it. I won't make things difficult for you. Take the project proposal to Junction tomorrow." She particularly enjoyed investing in young people with both vision and capability. GU Union's admiring gaze genuinely irritated Zhang Xiqing. His deep eyes suddenly darkened, and his gaze towards Yi Xinghua turned dangerous. GU Union stepped forward, positioning herself between him and Yi Xinghua, and said coolly, "President Zhang, though business may not favor us, goodwill remains. If you want to compete with me for the project, the client still prefers me. The grudges between us shouldn't involve an innocent third party. If you have any issues, take them up with me directly." Zhang Xiqing let out a cold laugh, his entire body radiating chill. He gripped GU Union's chin and sneered. "Take them up with you." Yi Xinghua suddenly widened his eyes, Seeing Zhang Xiqing publicly humiliating Jiyu Yunyan like this, he clenched his teeth hard and immediately wanted to intervene. President Zhang, however, he had barely moved when Zhang Xiqing suddenly turned his head, his expression dark and menacing. Get lost. Yi Xinghua was instantly frozen in place, feeling a chill spread through his limbs, as if his entire bloodstream had turned to ice. Jiyu Yunyan grabbed his wrist, forcefully pulling it away, then turned her face to look at Yi Xinghua. She had been momentarily angry earlier, but she shouldn't have dragged him into this. Her tone was calm as she said, I have something to discuss with President Zhang. You should leave. This has nothing to do with you. Yi Xinghua originally wanted to say something more, but Zhang Xiqing didn't give him the chance. Zhong Shuai, who had been waiting not far away, noticed the commotion and quickly came over to pull Yi Xinghua away, saying, Leave our CEO alone. Yi Xinghua was just a researcher and couldn't match Zhong Shuai's strength. He was dragged away without much resistance, in an instant. The corridor fell silent as there was no one else around. Jiyu Yunyan didn't even glance at him. Turning around to leave, Zhang Xiqing grabbed her wrist abruptly, emotions surging in his eyes. Where do you think you're going? Jiyu Yunyan turned back, a faintly mocking curve forming at the corner of her lips. To the restroom. What? Does President Zhang want to come too? Too bad it's gender segregated. Zhang Xiqing froze on the spot. Watching as Jiyu Yunyan strode confidently toward the restroom in her clicking high heels, a sudden, unreadable emotion flashed in his eyes as he raised his hand to cover his forehead. After exiting the women's restroom, Jiyu Yunyan kept her head down, rummaging through her handbag for lipstick and powder to touch up her makeup. Before she could even unzip her bag, an arm suddenly reached out from the side, gripping her firmly and pulling her over. Jiyu Yunyan's beautiful eyes narrowed sharply as she instantly seized his wrist, yanking hard in an attempt to throw him over her shoulder. However, the person had a very stable stance. After the first strike failed, she quickly raised her foot and aimed a kick at his abdomen. A series of movements were completed in the blink of an eye. When she realized it was Zhang Xiqing who had ambushed her, her ankle was already firmly grasped by the man. The man pinned her long leg against his waist, then pushed forward, pressing her against the wall as he leaned in. Jiyu Yunyan's face darkened instantly. Zhang Xiqing, are you crazy? Let go of me. Zhang Xiqing rested his chin on the crook of her neck, letting out a low chuckle. His warm breath brushed against her ear, sending a tingling itch through her. Nyan nyan. You're not allowed to smile at other men again. Jiyu Yunyan rolled her eyes, hooked her arm around his neck, and used the leverage to stomp hard on his leather shoe with her foot that was on the ground, showing no mercy. Zhang Xiqing frowned slightly but didn't let go of her. Instead, as if punishing her, he gripped her waist and pressed her forcefully against himself. Feeling his audacity, Jiyu Yunyan clenched her fist and punched him. The two of them actually started fighting right then and there. Jiyu Yunyan's dress today was completely unsuitable for fighting, already torn at the side from her wide, unrestrained movements, yet she paid no heed, each strike aimed lethally at him. Chapter 191, a perfect match, truly made for each other. Zhang Xiqing merely dodged, not countering, allowing her to vent her anger and occasionally taking a few of her punches. Before long, both were in a sorry state, breaths ragged, clothes in an unsightly mess. Jiyu Yunyan leaned against the wall, glaring at him. Her high heels had long been flung away to who knows where, and she stood barefoot on the ground. Her snow-white feet pressed against the marble tiles, making her skin appear even fairer. Zhang Xiqing's brow furrowed deeply as he glanced at the discarded high heels, his voice icy. Put your shoes on, none of your business. Jiyu Yunyan couldn't be bothered with him, in her current state. She couldn't continue attending the banquet anyway. Filled with anger and unwilling to see him any longer, she tied up her skirt and strode out barefoot. Zhang Xiqing picked up the shoes, swiftly chased after her, and abruptly lifted her off the ground, carrying her over his shoulder. Jiyu Yunyan was upside down, her carefully styled hair now disheveled and hanging loosely. She reached up and pinched his buttocks. Zhang Xiqing, put me down right now. Zhang Xiqing paused, his voice deep and hoarse. Nyan nyan. If you keep making trouble, don't blame me for being impolite. Fortunately, the restroom was close to the exit. Zhang Xiqing directly tossed her into the car, then knelt on one knee, grasping her fair foot to slip the high heels back on. Jiyu Yunyan lowered her gaze to look at him. The man's serious demeanor was truly captivating. Yet she felt a surge of anger in her heart. She kicked him hard with her foot, a weasel paying respects to a chicken harbors no good intentions. Move aside, I don't need you. However, Jean Sicheng held onto her foot and forcibly put the shoe on her, then he pushed her inside and got into the car as well. As soon as the door closed, the entire enclosed space was filled with his scent. Ji Uni frowned and opened the car door on the other side, intending to get out. However, Jean Sicheng hooked his arm around her waist and pulled her back. How do you plan to go out dressed like this? Only then did Ji Uni realize her dress was torn and her hair was a mess. If she were to go out like this and run into someone, they would probably think something had happened to her. She snorted coldly. If it weren't for you, how could my clothes end up like this? Jean Sicheng slowly curved his lips, a hint of amusement flashing in his eyes. Shall I compensate you then? Ji Union grew somewhat impatient. No need, I don't lack this bit of money, stay away from me. Jean Sicheng took off his suit jacket and draped it over her slightly exposed legs. Anything else is fine, but not this. Upon receiving the message, driver Xiaozhong hurried over. As soon as he got in the car and saw Ji Union, he didn't show any surprise. Boss, should we take Miss Ji home first, or, Jean Sicheng, to the mall? Xiaozhong didn't ask any further questions and started the car. Jean Sicheng noticed the expanse of fair skin on Ji Union's chest, narrowed his eyes, and said coldly, raise the partition. Ji Union let out a cold snort, too lazy to pay him any attention. The car soon came to a stop at a shopping mall under Ingfan's ownership, actually. At this late hour, the mall had long since closed for the day, but with just one phone call from Jean Sicheng, the mall was brightly lit once again. The manager stood at the door and immediately lined up to welcome Jean Sicheng as soon as he saw him. President, Ji Union, wrapped in Jean Sicheng's coat, couldn't help but feel so awkward that she wanted to dig her toes into the ground, and once again felt the urge to hit someone. After being seen by these people today, she wondered what rumors would spread tomorrow. She's really fed up with being constantly associated with him now. Jean Sicheng had no idea what was going through her mind and directly took Ji Union to the store of the brand she frequently wore these days. He picked out a few pieces and had her try them on. It must be said, his taste was impeccable. The moment Ji Union stepped out in the new outfit, all the staff gasped in awe, as expected of the CEO's wife. She's absolutely stunning, oh my. The CEO is so doting on his wife. He actually brought her to pick out clothes in the middle of the night. Didn't they say the CEO and his wife were about to celebrate good news? With Yingfan and Zhengxin's alliance through marriage, no one in Huaju will be able to compare in the future. I heard the CEO's wife recently made it into the top 10 of the global rich list. What a perfect match. They're truly a talented man and a beautiful woman. Chapter 192, You are destined to be my wife. Ji Union's expression turned cold upon hearing these compliments. Without hesitation, she pulled out a black card from her handbag and placed it on the front desk, saying, charge it. Jean Sicheng stood nearby and remarked indifferently, put it on my account. Ji Union rolled her eyes and retorted, no need. It's better we keep things clear between us to avoid any further entanglements. Jean Sicheng stepped forward, naturally wrapping an arm around her shoulder. His lowered eyes flashing with a hint of tenderness. With our son here, there will always be a bond between us that you can't sever. The man had also drunk quite a bit at the earlier banquet, carrying a faint scent of alcohol on him, not unpleasant. Whether it was due to the alcohol or Ji Union's presence by his side, his expression seemed more relaxed and languid than usual, his voice noticeably deeper and huskier. Ji Union abruptly shook off his arm and said coldly, we've been divorced for a long time. Even if there's any connection left, it's between you and your son. Keep your hands to yourself. Jean Sicheng's arm wrapped around her again, forcibly pulling her into his embrace. We'll remarry. In front of them stood a full-length mirror, reflecting the image of a tall man holding a petite woman. They were pressed so close together, their intimacy creating a sticky atmosphere that seemed impenetrable to outsiders. Ji Union couldn't help but feel annoyed, peeling him off like removing chewing gum. Remarry what? Keep dreaming about remarriage. How much did you drink at the banquet, pretending to be drunk and acting crazy with me? Surrounded by the mall's employees, with so many eyes on them, Ji Union felt nothing but embarrassment. Jean Sicheng's scorching breath brushed against her neck. his voice carrying an indescribable ambiguity and hoarseness as he whispered, "Nyan Nyan. Sooner or later you'll forgive me. You're destined to be my wife, Pa." Ji Union had initially intended to spare him some dignity, but seeing how shameless he was being, she immediately abandoned all such thoughts. Rolling her eyes, she pushed him away and turned to leave without another word. The shop assistants didn't catch what was said between the two, but seeing the displeasure on Ji Union's face, they immediately understood it was an argument. None dared to make a sound. Afraid of provoking Zhang Xiqing's temper, Zhang Xiqing curled his lips slightly as he watched her retreating figure, then lazily strode forward with his long legs to follow her. The dress he had picked for her suited her perfectly. Wearing it, she looked like a dark elf, with the large expanse of bare back leaving ample room for alluring fantasies. He frowned slightly and casually grabbed a white Chanel-style jacket from the rack. Only after both of them had left did the manager and the shop assistant finally let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the cashier at the front desk exclaimed, "Manager, the president's wife left her black card behind." The manager froze for a moment. "Quick, go after her." The cashier was on the verge of tears, clutching the black card in panic. I don't dare." The manager stomped his foot. "Fine. Just give it to me then." He took the black card and quickly trotted after Zhang Xiqing, handing it over with both hands. "Fourth young master, the president's wife left her card in our store. Should we send any new arrivals to the president's wife in the future?" Zhang Xiqing reached out and took it. Well done. Go tell HR to give you a raise." The manager's face instantly lit up with immense joy. "Yes, thank you, President." The manager's shout was so loud that it made Zhang Xiqing frown. The manager immediately panicked, his voice weakening as he cautiously glanced at him. "Fourth young master, please take care on your way." Zhang Xiqing gave a nonchalant and left the manager behind. He quickened his pace to catch up with Ji Union. However, Ji Union completely ignored him. As she passed by his car, she didn't even glance at it and simply walked straight ahead. Zhang Xiqing grabbed her wrist firmly. "Get in the car." Ji Union turned her head. And under the dim streetlight, Zhang Xiqing's refined features seemed to be filtered with a soft glow. Yet, as if she hadn't noticed, she frowned and said, "Let go, Zhang Xiqing, it's so late. Don't be difficult, let me take you home." Chapter 193, Is it fun to bully him? Ji Union lifted her eyelids to glance at him, speaking in a sarcastic tone. "Young Master Zhang IV must be swamped with work, so I won't trouble you. I'll call the family driver to pick me up." "Call him and tell him not to come." "On what grounds?" Ji Union heard him say this and curled her lips in a cold smile. She was about to say something more when suddenly he grabbed her wrist, twisted it behind her back, and pressed her against the car before kissing her lips. It was just a brief touch. Gone the moment it came. However, Ji Union widened her eyes in shock and subconsciously licked the corner of her lips. Zhang Xiqing's gaze darkened as his thumb gently pressed against her lips twice. The emotions in his eyes surged violently, as if they could instantly drown Ji Union if only an outlet could be found. "Nyan Nyan, I'll take you home, be good, okay?" Ji Union pushed him away abruptly and angrily kicked him in the shin. "What's gotten into you?" She quickly glanced around the street, and only after confirming nothing unusual did she finally relax. This was a public street, after all. She absolutely didn't want tomorrow's gossip headlines to be all about her and Zhang Xiqing. At that moment, a car approached from not far away and stopped right beside the two of them. The door was suddenly flung open, and a man stepped out. Without even exchanging greetings, he clenched his fist and swung at Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing immediately shielded Ji Union behind him and raised his arm to block the incoming punch. When the first punch missed, the man quickly clenched his fist again and struck once more. While hitting, he kept cursing, "How dare you bully my precious niece? Even if you're the fourth young master of the Zhang family, today I'm determined to teach you a lesson." Ji Union slightly widened her eyes, looking at the newcomer in astonishment, and exclaimed, "Third uncle." Lu Yangming was electrified by her address, as if he had taken some stimulant, his face turning red. "Nianbao actually called me third uncle. I can't let you call me uncle for nothing. Wait and see how your uncle beats this brat to vent your anger." Ji Union watched his weak and unskilled movements. Hearing these words, Zhang Xiqing paused in his movements. To be honest, if Lu Yangming weren't Ji Union's uncle, It really wouldn't be certain who would be beating whom today. Who knows, tomorrow morning the Lu family might have to go to the hospital to pick up Lu Yanming's corpse. He glanced at Jiyu Union out of the corner of his eye and deliberately left an opening, allowing Lu Yangming to land a blow on his shoulder. Jiyu Union could naturally tell he was going easy on her, but she didn't stop him. She even let out a cold laugh. If he was willing to get beaten up, that was his own business, right? However, all three of them were prominent figures. Jiyu Union really didn't want to make headlines tomorrow over something like this and become the talk of the internet. She directly pulled open the car door of the vehicle Lu Yangming had arrived in, got inside, and slammed the door shut with a loud bang. With no one left to watch, Zhang Xiqing immediately stopped acting. He secretly grabbed Lu Yanming's arm, restraining his movements. However, Lu Yangming suddenly let out an extremely loud scream. The scream was so agonizing, it sounded as if his arm had been twisted off. Zhang Xiqing frowned, not yet reacting, but the next second. Jiyu Union swiftly got out of the car, pulled the two apart, and stood protectively in front of Lu Yangming, glaring at Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing, what are you doing? My third uncle doesn't know martial arts. Is bullying him fun for you? Zhang Xiqing's face darkened. If he said he was being framed, would she believe him? His deep, cold eyes gazed at Lu Yangming. Lu Yangming, however, showed no awareness of being framed. Instead, he stood behind Jiyu Union with a smug expression, dangling one arm as if it were immobile while clutching it with his other hand, his face contorted in pain. Nyan Nyan, he's not a good man. Don't pay attention to him in the future. Third uncle will find you a better man. Chapter 194, will stand up for you. Zhang Xiqing's face darkened. Noticing Lu Yanming's gaze, he immediately snorted. What are you glaring at me for? Before, when you bullied Nyan Nyan, our family was unaware. Now that Nyan Nyan has been found, our family will absolutely not let you bully her again. Lu Yangming threw out these words, his icy gaze sending a chill down one's spine. Swallowing hard, he grabbed Jiyu Union's wrist and pulled her into the car. Uncle will take you home. Zhang Xiqing's gaze deepened, while the driver Xiaozhong beside him seemed uneasy. President, Zhang Xiqing concealed his expression and said nothing, getting into the car, back to the old house. Jiyu Union had initially thought Lu Yangming was just making empty talk, but she never expected he would actually drive her all the way to the Lu family home. Looking at the Lu family's villa outside the car, Jiyu Union finally turned to him and said, "Third, uncle, maybe I shouldn't go today. After all, I didn't even prepare a gift." "What gift? If you really brought one, everyone would actually be unhappy." Lu Yangming directly opened the car door for her, probably afraid she might run away, and at the same time shouted toward the villa, "I've brought Nyan Nyan back." Lu Yangming had spotted Jiyu Union by the roadside and decided on a whim to bring her home. So the Lu family had no idea until now. At the sound of his shout, everyone in the villa quickly came out, especially old Lady Lu, who moved with a speed unbecoming of her age. "Nyan Nyan, you've finally come." Jiyu Union felt a bit awkward arriving empty-handed. "I didn't expect to come, so I didn't prepare anything." Eldest aunt Wen Yonglan smiled gently and patted the back of her hand softly. "What's there to prepare when coming back to your own home? Don't be so formal." Second aunt Tang Yutong also laughed. "Everyone at home was thinking about what gifts to buy for you, so don't you go giving us things. You earn money, don't you?" Before Tang Yutong could finish speaking, she suddenly belatedly realized Jiyu Union's identity and immediately coughed lightly to cover it up. "You work so hard to earn money, and we lack nothing. Don't waste your money." Jiyu Union had originally intended to say something more, but the Lu family's enthusiasm quickly ushered her into the villa, where she found herself surrounded. Jiyu Union, such warmth was a bit overwhelming for her, mainly because her senior brothers, sisters, and master were not as fervently affectionate as the Lu family. Over the past 20 years, she had grown accustomed to being alone most of the time. Suddenly having such a large family of relatives was something she wasn't quite used to yet. The Lu family was just about to have dinner when the old man heard that Jiyu Union had arrived. He immediately instructed the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes and asked Jiyu Union with a smile if there was anything special she wanted to eat. Seeing the expectant look in the old man's eyes, Jiyu Union steeled herself and shook her head. "No need, I just came to say hello, after all. The babies are still at home." Madame Lu waved her hand dismissively. "No problem. We can have someone bring them over, it's perfect timing. We haven't officially met them yet, and we can also discuss when and how to hold the family recognition banquet. Earlier, when Ji Union had refused to hold a public banquet to announce her identity, the old lady hadn't agreed with her decision. Rumors have been swirling outside lately, even speculating that their family doesn't value Ji Union. She couldn't sit still any longer, not to mention refusing. You're the treasure our Lu family has brought back, hidden away like a secret. If outsiders see it, they'll think you're something to be ashamed of. Our Lu family's little princess should be announced to the world, so everyone knows better than to even think of bullying you. Hearing the old lady say this, Lu Yangming, who was standing nearby, immediately chimed in. Exactly. We should hold a banquet to show everyone just how much our family cherishes Nyan Nyan, and while we're at it, we can introduce her to some of the most promising young talents. Mom, you wouldn't believe it. When I picked Nyan Nyan up earlier, Zhon Xiqing was harassing her. If I hadn't happened to see it and given him a beating, who knows how he might have bullied our Nyan Nyan. What, Nyan Nyan, are you alright? How did he bully you? Tell your grandma, your grandpa, and I will stand up for you. Madame Lu's expression darkened instantly as she grabbed Ji Yunyan's hands, inspecting her repeatedly. Only after confirming she was unharmed did she relax slightly. Good job beating him. Next time any of you see him, hit him even harder. Anyone who dares bully someone from the Lu family, even if it's Zhon Xiqing, won't get off lightly. Chapter 195, Hiding behind Nyan Nyan. The old lady's words immediately drew agreement from the younger generation of the Lu family. Ji Yunyan gave Lu Yangming a meaningful glance, her lips curving in a faint, amused smile. Lu Yangming didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he flashed Ji Yunyan a brilliant smile and proudly boasted to his eldest brother, second brother, and fourth brother, Nyan Nyan is so grateful to me. She even called me third uncle on the way here. As soon as these words were spoken, the Lu family was thrown into an uproar. Old Madam Lu, Old Master Lu, eldest uncle Lu Yanhong, eldest aunt Wen Yonglan, second uncle Lu Yangchuan, second aunt Tang Yutong, all turned their fierce gazes toward Lu Yangming. Only Lu Yangming remained oblivious, still basking in his own glory. She called my name several times. When she saw I'd been beaten by Zhon Xiqing, she even worriedly stepped in front to protect me. So thoughtful. Though Lu Yanhong wore a smile, it was dangerously cold. Lu Yangchuan maintained his usual icy expression, but he quietly undid the buttons on his cuffs. The next second, the whole family rushed forward and immediately gave Lu Yangming a beating. One kicked him, another punched him, and no one knew who landed the sneak attack. Everyone was also shouting at him. You're her uncle. How could you let Nyan Nyan stand in front of you? Lu Yangming, are you even human? You hid behind Nyan Nyan when there was danger. We finally managed to bring Nyan Nyan back home after all these years. She's suffered so much, and we can't love her enough. Yet you still caused trouble that dragged her into it. Even a few juniors took advantage of the chaos to land a hit on Lu Yangming. Lu Yangming clutched his head, unsure who exactly had struck him. After what felt like an eternity, he was finally let go, his clothes in disarray, his face turned livid with anger. You all. Yet the Lu family members who had just taken part in the scuffle now appeared impeccably dressed, not a single wrinkle in their clothes. Making it impossible to tell who had actually thrown the punches, he looked aggrievedly at Old Master Lu and Old Madam Lu. Dad, Mom, how could you just watch them hit me? Old Madam Lu gracefully picked up the red tea on the table and took a delicate sip. You deserve to be hit. Not only did you fail to protect Nyan Nyan, but you even made her shield you. I feel ashamed just thinking about it. You've really outdone yourself this time, Lu Yangming. He then turned his pitiful gaze to Ji Union. Nyan Nyan, tell them how bravely third uncle stood up for you just now. Didn't I make sure not to hide behind you? Under the gaze of the crowd, Ji Union nodded and said, third uncle really wasn't hiding behind me. He's just not very skilled yet. And I was worried he might get hurt, so I stopped him. Upon hearing this, instead of forgiving Lu Yangming, Old Master Lu grew even angrier and pointed his cane at him. You don't even know your own limits, yet you go picking fights and end up making Nyan Nyan clean up your mess. How dare you even speak? Go sign up for a martial arts class tomorrow. Don't come back until you've mastered it. I refuse to have such a useless son. Lu Yangming widened his eyes in disbelief. Dad, These hands are a photographer's hands, and you want me to learn martial arts. What's wrong with learning martial arts? It can also protect Nyan Nyan. What's the use of learning photography? Does our family really need another photographer? Old man Lu snorted coldly. He had long been dissatisfied with his son's lack of focus on proper work. Among his 4 sons, this one was the most unreliable, and he had constantly worried about him. Seeing him like this now, he couldn't help but scold him. Hearing old Mr. Lu speak so disparagingly of his career, Lu Yangming immediately became displeased and couldn't help retorting. Photographers are amazing too. Okay, I'm aiming for global awards. I want my photos to be seen all over the world. Old Mr. Lu grew even angrier, his cane thudding loudly against the floor. Ha! Spreading it all over the world. Just look at the nonsense you've filmed. Can it be eaten or worn? If it weren't for this family, you'd have starved to death long ago. Lu Yangming protested indignantly. Eaten or worn? Dad, how can you be so vulgar? This is art. I'm dedicating myself to art. Chapter 196. Are you talking about my mother? What kind of art is that? Do you think I don't understand? The garbage you've been shooting. Can that even be called art? Old Mr. Lu's face darkened as he saw not a hint of remorse in him. Your eldest sister, back when she was acting, locked herself in a dark room for a week to simulate the experience of a kidnapped and imprisoned character for a role. When she came out, she was seriously ill. But the character she portrayed was vivid and full of depth, with real social significance. In the end, she won countless major awards both domestically and internationally. That's what it means to devote yourself to art, and you just snap a few random shots with a lousy camera and call it devotion. Get out of my sight. Just looking at you makes me furious. Perhaps it was because Lu Jun was mentioned. Madame Lu, who had been in good spirits due to Jiyu Yunyan's visit, suddenly reddened her eyes, her mood sinking. The rest of the Lu family also fell silent in an instant. This was the first time Jiyu Yunyan had heard someone mention her birth mother. She abruptly raised her head. Lu, grandfather, are you talking about my mother? Old Mr. Lu paused for a moment before nodding. Jiyu Yunyan originally wanted to ask more, but seeing the old master and his wife looking exhausted and unwilling to elaborate, she decided to keep quiet. The Lu family had intended to send a car to pick up the 3 treasures, but Jiyu Yunyan declined, saying, let's not do it today since it's already too late. I'll bring them over another day to meet you properly. Mr. and Mrs. Lu's eyes flickered with a hint of regret, but having just mentioned their daughter, they didn't have much energy left, so they nodded in agreement. During a family meal, the younger members of the household were very interested in Jiyu Yunyan. This year, just 9-year-old Lu Jiaja from second uncle's family stared at Jiyu Yunyan with wide eyes, especially intrigued by this suddenly appearing cousin in the household. Jiyu Yunyan didn't bring any gifts since she wasn't prepared, so she simply transferred 100 million to each of her younger cousins as pocket money. All the cousins immediately widened their eyes in shock, being still quite young. Their families never gave them that much spending money. Seeing her casually give each of them 100 million as pocket money without batting an eye, their affection for her instantly doubled, especially Lu Jiaja, upon hearing that Jiyu Yunyan would later gift him a yacht, immediately started calling her cousin non-stop. Tang Yutong immediately frowned and pulled him aside. What are you yelling for? Why are you so annoying? Do you know how hard it is for your cousin? It's not like you're lacking food or clothes at home, and yet you're asking your cousin for money. It's alright, auntie, I'm not short on money. Jiyu Yunyan couldn't help but laugh and cry at Tang Yutong's words. She really didn't look like some pitiful, cash-strapped waif, did she? She had no idea what bizarre notions the Lu family had been brainwashed with. But why did every single one of them seem convinced she was some tragic, lonely, and impoverished soul? Hearing her say this only made the Lu family members feel even more sorry for her. They all insisted on transferring her more pocket money. Even the youngest Lu Jiaja not only returned the 100 million yuan in pocket money that Jiyu Yunyan had just given him, but also transferred all the pocket money in his card to her. With his round, wide eyes, he raised his hand in a mature manner, trying to pat her head. However, due to his small stature, even on tiptoe, he could only reach her arm. Cousin. It's okay, I'll take care of you from now on. Jiyu Yunyan looked at the 100 million yuan followed by 632 yuan and couldn't help but feel both amused and touched. Little Lu Jiajia was only 5 years older than her son and not much taller. Unable to resist, she reached out and pinched his cheeks, giving them a gentle squeeze. Of course, the pocket money was all returned. She wasn't short of money, so why would she need so much? The Lu family's money kept being transferred back and forth. And given the enormous amounts involved, the bank even suspected that the entire family's accounts had been hacked. They called to confirm. The meal was filled with warmth and joy, though old Mrs. Lu's smile remained somewhat forced. With age, her appetite had waned, and she left the table after eating just a little. On her way back from the restroom, Jiyu Union passed by a room and noticed the door was ajar. Inside, old Mrs. Lu sat silently weeping. Chapter 197, Who is my father? Jiyu Union hesitated for a moment but still knocked on the door. Old Madame Lu quickly wiped her tears and turned around. Upon seeing Jiyu Union, she was momentarily stunned. Why aren't you going to eat, Jiyu Union? I went to the restroom and came back just in time to hear you crying. Old Lady Lu's face flashed with a hint of embarrassment. I've made a fool of myself in front of you. Jiyu Union's gaze fell on the photo album in her hand. And seeing the woman in it who bore a striking resemblance to her, a guess immediately sprang to her mind. Old Madame Lu sighed as she noticed her looking at the photo album in her hand. You've guessed it too, she is your mother. The woman in the photo was stunning, radiant and bold in her beauty. With eyes identical to Jiyu Union's, clear as a spring, pure and bright, even through the photograph, one could see just how pitilessly captivating she had been in her youth. After seeing the photo, she didn't doubt for a second why the Lu family had said that the moment the elderly Mrs. Lu laid eyes on her, she believed she was their long-lost granddaughter. May I ask who my father is? Old Lady Lu fell silent, her aged fingers gently caressing the face in the photograph. I don't know either. Back then, your mother suddenly announced she was pregnant and insisted on keeping the baby without saying a word. No matter how much I tried to persuade her, she wouldn't listen, nor would she reveal who the father was. Jiyu Union was taken aback, a flicker of surprise crossing her eyes. She hadn't expected that even the Lu family didn't know the identity of her biological father. Old Lady Lu didn't look at her, as if lost in memories. She was so looking forward to your birth. Every time she called me after work, her face would light up with joy. She spent ages flipping through dictionaries, wanting to choose a name for you that encompassed the most beautiful meanings in the world. But who would have thought? Old Lady Lu didn't say anything more, but Jiyu Union already knew what followed. Later, when her mother went into labor unexpectedly, none of the Lu family members were aware. Her agent, fearing it would affect her, abandoned her in the mountains. After that, her mother passed away from depression. She seemed to see a woman who resembled her in appearance, gently speaking to her while she was still an embryo, caressing her belly every day, eagerly awaiting her birth. Having become a mother to 3 children at a young age, she understood that feeling all too well. The tip of her nose couldn't help but feel a little sore. She blinked her eyes hard to push back the stinging sensation. Lu, Grandma, can you give me a photo of my mother? Old Mrs. Lu, seeing her moved expression, choked up slightly. Of course, your mother would be overjoyed to know you've been found. Next time you bring the 3 little ones over to formally address us, you can also meet their grandmother. After the meal, Lu Yanhong arranged for someone to take Jiyu Union home. Second Uncle Lu Yangchuan stepped forward. I'll do it, I need to go to the lab anyway. Lu Yanhong nodded. He knew his younger brother was always reliable. Then drive carefully. Let us know once you've dropped Nyan Nyan off at home. Who knows where Yangju is? Nyan Nyan rarely comes back, and he didn't even answer his phone. Jiyu Union, who knew Lu Yenzhou's whereabouts, immediately touched the tip of her nose and coughed lightly. Well then, Uncle, I'll be going first. Lu Yangchuan was a man of few words. While driving, he hardly spoke, and the car remained quiet. Jiyu Union didn't feel awkward at all. She even took the opportunity to pull out her phone and reply to messages from Dai Lei. Just as they reached a traffic light, Lu Yangchuan stopped the car and glanced at Jiyu Union with a hint of guilt. After hesitating for a while, he finally spoke up. If you need anything, just tell your second uncle. Don't hesitate. Jiyu Union looked up at him in surprise and shook her head. No need, I don't have anything I need second uncle's help with right now. The company isn't in its initial development phase anymore, it's long been on track. She noticed Lu Yanchuan's eyes dim slightly as she spoke, so she quickly added, if there's anything I need in the future, I won't hesitate to ask second uncle for help. Chapter 198, Great Uncle looks so young. Only then did Lu Yangchuan brighten up again, giving a stiff nod in response. You really couldn't tell from the expression, but GU Union's phone received a transfer of 10 billion from Lu Yangchuan. Take it and spend it. Your uncle has money to support you. If you run out, just ask your uncle for more. Don't work so hard. GU Union immediately facepalmed. She had no idea where the Lu family's habit of throwing money at the slightest provocation came from. Why did they always assume she was short on money? Don't they remember they just made it to the top 10 of the global rich list not long ago? With GU Union in the car, the vehicles smoothly drove into the residential area. Understanding his intention, GU Union directly invited him in. Lu Yangchuan, who had initially planned to return to the lab, hesitated for only a moment before following GU Union through the gate. The three little ones were still awake. Having already received the call and knew that GU Union had gone to the Lu family, hearing the sound at the entrance, they came running over in a flurry, shouting in unison, "Mommy!" However, when they saw Lu Yangchuan, who was a step behind GU Union, they all stopped. A questioning gaze fell upon GU Union, hinting for her to explain why he had come along. GU Union reached out and patted the head of the nearest child, Xiao Tian, saying, "This is your Uncle Chuan." Xiao Tian, Xiao Chen, and Xiao Xing blinked their eyes and called out in sweet, obedient voices, "Uncle Chuan." The little alien spoke quickly, tugging at GU Union's sleeve after calling out and asking in a crisp voice, "Mommy, why do we call him Great Uncle?" GU Union curled her lips into a gentle smile and explained, "Because Uncle Chuan is Mommy's second uncle." Xiao Xing nodded and walked over to Lu Yangchuan's side, tilting her little head up. She had actually seen him before when the Lu family visited, but there were too many people at that time, so she couldn't remember clearly. Now that it was just Lu Yangchuan alone, she took a good, careful look at him. The Lu family had no young girls among the younger generation. When Lu Yangchuan saw Xiaoxing, his rough heart instantly melted into a puddle. He quickly crouched down to her eye level so she could see better. Little Star reached out her tiny hand, touched his face, tilted her small head, and asked with a puzzled expression, "Uncle Grandpa looks so young, why don't you have a beard?" This question immediately left Lu Yangchuan dumbfounded. He was never good with words, let alone dealing with children. Even with his own son at home, he played the strict father figure. But his son was just a little rascal. Little Star was different. She was a soft little bundle like cotton, smiling like a little angel. Looking at her, he seemed to see the shadow of GU Union from her childhood. Without thinking too much, he quickly agreed. "I'll grow a beard as soon as I get back to Uncle Grandpa's place." GU Union stood by and couldn't help but feel speechless upon hearing this. Little Xing found his flustered appearance amusing and immediately covered her mouth to laugh. Lu Yangchuan was delighted to see that she liked him. In a moment of joy, he took out his phone and called his assistant. 10 minutes later, the door of the GU residence was knocked, and a new model robot was placed in the living room. Lu Yangchuan looked at Xiaoxing with some unease. "This is a gift from your great-uncle. Do you like it?" Xiaoxing, who only liked ragdolls, immediately frowned with a look of disdain. "It's too ugly," being rejected by the little tyrant of the family. Lu Yangchuan suddenly felt as if a knife had been plunged into his heart. Feeling completely down, Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen were overjoyed, circling around the robot several times, held in his arms. Xiao Xing couldn't bear to see him so dejected. She raised her soft little hand and patted his head, saying, "Uncle Chuan, don't be sad, it's not your fault for having poor taste. I'll teach you later. Just follow my lead, and soon your aesthetic sense will be up to par." Tilda. Lu Yangchuan nodded earnestly. "Then I'll rely on Xiaoxing's guidance from now on." Xiaoxing nodded solemnly. Lu Yangchuan's lab assistant glanced at the pink bubble dress on the cloth doll Xiaoxing was holding in her arms. Is the lab going to adopt this style from now on? The corner of his mouth twitched. No, better not. Chapter 199, Sleeping with Mommy. After a friendly discussion about aesthetics with Xiaoxing, Lu Yangchuan realized it was getting too late and reluctantly left. Xiaoxing didn't feel much about it, but thinking that he promised to bring her a robot as cute as the little Mian Mian in her arms next time, one that could move, talk, and play with her, she felt a bit more anticipation. GU Yunyan watched as Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen yawned but still refused to sleep. So she shooed the three little ones off to their rooms. If it weren't for Lu Yanchuan's visit today, she would never have let them stay up this late. Hurry up and go to rest. You have school tomorrow. If you don't sleep now, I'll confiscate your big robot and never let your uncle send you gifts again. Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen puffed up their little cheeks. Though reluctance flickered in their eyes, they obediently headed toward their room. Xiaoxing hugged her doll tightly and looked at her mother with hopeful eyes. Mommy, can I sleep with you tonight? Gu Union crouched down and gently tapped her delicate little nose. You want to sleep with Mommy? Little Star nodded and raised the doll in her arms. Little Cotton also wants to sleep with Mommy. Gu Union couldn't help but laugh. Alright then, tonight both our Little Star and Little Cotton will keep Mommy company. Little Sky and Little Chen suddenly stopped in their tracks, looking at Gu Union with hopeful eyes. Mommy, Gu Union shook her head. Didn't you always say you're big kids now? If you're big kids, how can you still sleep with Mommy? But if you behave well, Mommy can promise to take you to the Lu family to see your great-grandmother this weekend. Great. Gu Union took Xiaoxing to the room, then watched Xiaotian and Xiaochen get into bed. She kissed each of them on the forehead before turning off the light. Xiaoxing lay on the big bed, her eyes sparkling like stars, not a hint of sleepiness in them. Gu Union reached out and touched her. Why aren't you sleeping? Waiting for Mommy to tell a story, Xiaoxing quickly replied. Gu Union smiled. Then what kind of story would you like to hear? She took out the children's storybook and flipped to the part she hadn't read yet. How about I tell you Pinocchio's story today? Little Xing nodded obediently. Gu Union held the fairy tale book, her voice gentle and soft, under the warm orange light. Little Xing kept his eyes wide open. After finishing the last sentence, Gu Union sighed helplessly. Why aren't you asleep yet, staring with such big eyes? Are you trying to compete with Mommy to see who has bigger eyes? Little Star covered her tiny nose, her eyes watery with a hint of mist. Mommy, Pinocchio's nose grows when he lies. Will ours too? Gu Union was taken aback for a moment. Why do you ask that? Little Star let out a childish sigh. Mommy told me and my brothers to tell everyone we're 3 this year, but we're actually 4. Will our noses grow long now? Gu Union couldn't help but laugh. She leaned in, rubbing her nose playfully against Little Star's, teasing her. Then Mommy lied too. What if Mommy has to grow a long nose with you? Little Star thought about how her nose would grow long. Her eyes turning slightly red as she fought back tears. With a choked sob, she took 2 quick breaths and said, Then let's just say it's hereditary in our family. Anyway, if everyone in the family has a long nose, it wouldn't be strange. Gu Union was nearly overwhelmed by how adorable Little Star was. She leaned in and kissed her little cheek, saying, How can my Little Star be so sweet? Thank you for watching. This is a full-length novel. If you'd like to see more, please leave a comment below saying, Looking forward to the next part, or give the video a like. I'll update promptly based on your feedback. See you next time.